Chapter 1202. The 13 people flew toward the battlefield of the outsiders. In the endless void, there was nothing in front of them but darkness. Long Yu followed Red Oriole and was able to keep up with the others. Although time was tight, because they were worried that they would fall into the traps set by the Ice God clan if they moved too fast, the others did not move forward at full speed. However, compared to Long Yu, he had to use all his strength to keep up with the others. After all, Long Yu only had the martial arts realm and cultivation of a 5-star emperor, and his basic strength was much weaker than that of the others. Except for me, the rest of you split up in pairs and spread out to the surroundings, side by side. Leader Dao Qing said in a deep voice. The other 12 people spread out in all directions according to his instructions, including Long Yu and Red Oriole, who were about 100 miles away from Dao Qing. This distance was the furthest they could see each other and immediately support each other. If they were further away, although they could feel each other, it would not be so easy to support each other. The 13 people moved forward side by side at an extremely fast speed, and soon they were farther and farther away from the third domain galaxy, which meant that they were going deeper and deeper into the dangerous battlefield of the outsiders. The battlefield of the outsiders was the general name of a large star area. In this star area, there were many galaxies, but because of the perennial war with the outsiders, the divine rune sources in these galaxies were almost exhausted, and they had become similar to the ancient ruins of the stars. Around these dilapidated galaxies was a vast expanse of the void. In this expanse of the void, battles between countless races were constantly taking place. This was the border of countless races' territories. Danger could happen at any time and in any corner of this void. In the battlefield of the outsiders near the territory of the Demon Clan, there were usually many Demon Clan members patrolling, but the patrols were relatively scattered. Because this void was too vast, no matter how many people were assigned to patrol, it was impossible to cover every corner. In this void, there were several patrolling legions, which added up to tens of thousands of powerful demonic cultivators at least in the Emperor realm. However, compared to this vast space, it was just a drop in the bucket. On average, there was only one patrolling demonic cultivator in every 10,000 miles. Therefore, Long Yu and the others did not encounter any patrolling demonic cultivators after moving forward for a long time. This was extremely normal. Besides, they were currently on an escort mission of this level. If they encountered any danger, even a few patrol teams nearby wouldn't be able to help at all. Something doesn't seem right. After everyone had traveled for 500,000 kilometers, Red Oriole suddenly whispered to Long Yu as she walked together with Long Yu. You feel it too? Long Yu nodded and asked. Just now, through his secret martial arts technique of balance control, he had sensed that there seemed to be some unusual fluctuations of spatial divine runes in the surroundings. Although it had only been a flash, this unusual phenomenon had still attracted Long Yu's attention. That's right. Red Oriole nodded, her expression turning solemn. She had also cultivated balance control. Although she had only reached the 3rd stage, her spiritual sense and perception had already surpassed that of ordinary great sovereign realm experts. At this time, the other great sovereigns and demonic cultivators who were traveling with them had basically not discovered anything strange. However, Long Yu and Red Oriole had already become vigilant. Be careful. I can sense the fluctuations of hidden spatial divine runes. Red Oriole immediately warned the other 11 great sovereigns around her. On guard. Dao Qing, the leader of the Saber-Wing race's operation, had a dark expression. He did not suspect anything at all and immediately ordered everyone to be on guard. He knew very well that Red Oriole would not be joking at this time. Hidden spatial interrogation ripples? Even I didn't sense it. So how could a higher sovereign like you sense it? However, there was still someone who wanted to oppose Red Oriole, and that was the handsome young man from the divine wood demonic race, Han Hen. He did not want to oppose Red Oriole, but purely wanted to attract her attention. However, this time, it was obvious that he had made the wrong decision. It was probably because apart from Han Hen, everyone else had already started to be on guard. Therefore, Han Hen became the first target of the other party's attack. Just as Han Hen uttered those words, before anyone else could react, 3 flawless snow-white figures suddenly appeared next to him, and an icy aura exploded in an instant. It's someone from the Ice God race. When the others saw this, they immediately cried out in shock and reacted immediately. Defensive divine abilities, martial techniques, battle weapons, and so on all lit up at the same time. Only Han Hen, who was still focused on attracting Red Oriole's attention, was caught off guard by the sudden sneak attack of 3 Ice God race experts. The 3 Ice God race experts were all tyrannical existences in the Great Sovereign Realm. At this moment, they suddenly attacked without the slightest bit of mercy. Boundless ice sealing divine abilities directly sealed Han Hen's body in ice. Following that, countless terrifying ice spikes pierced into his body, completely immobilizing him. Everything happened in an instant. Han Hen had become the target of the Ice God race expert's attack, just because he had spoken one sentence too many. Fortunately, Dao Qing had ordered them to split up in pairs. Therefore, there was another great sovereign realm beast cultivator not far from Han Hen. At this time, the great sovereign realm beast cultivator who was with Han Hen instantly turned into a firebird. Blazing divine runes burst out from his body, and he smashed towards the 3 Ice God race experts like a meteorite. The Ice God race experts' bodies were hexagonal ice crystals, and their bodies were completely white. Seeing that reinforcements had arrived, they immediately chose to retreat. Once again, they completely disappeared from everyone's sight, leaving only Han Hen, who was frozen into an ice sculpture. At this time, Han Hen's entire body was sealed in ice, and countless ice spikes pierced into his body. Blood was dripping from his body, and he looked extremely miserable. However, he shouldn't die in such a short period of time. Burning Flame. The great sovereign realm beast cultivator who was with Han Hen turned into a firebird. Blazing divine runes instantly descended, and in a breath's time, the ice around Han Hen's body completely melted, and Han Hen was rescued. He has healing elixirs on him, so his life should not be in danger. In the next moment, the firebird beast cultivator turned into a human. He found a bottle of elixirs in Han Hen's sleeve and poured out 2 immemorial healing elixirs, and directly poured them into Han Hen's mouth. Logically speaking, 1 healing elixir should be enough, but to the firebird beast cultivator, the most important thing right now was to ensure his own safety. Therefore, he had to save Han Hen as soon as possible. In any case, it would be Han Hen's own elixirs that would be wasted. Everyone be on guard and guard against sneak attacks from the Ice God race. Use all your detection abilities and find out where they are right now. Leader Dao Qing immediately shouted, "Every 2 groups gather together for people in a group and guard against sneak attacks. Tian Tsang, Hai Shu, go protect Hong Ying and Long Yu. Their perception seems to be stronger than the rest of us." Tian Tsang and Hai Shu were members of the Heavenly Wings clan and the Sea Wings clan, respectively. The former was the middle-aged man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, a member of the Heavenly Wings clan, and the latter was a woman with short blue hair, a member of the Sea Wings clan. The 2 of them listened to Dao Qing's orders and immediately surrounded Long Yu and Hong Ying to protect them. As for Dao Qing, she had been walking alone in the middle of the team, but at this moment, she also went to Han Hen and the Firebird Beast Cultivator and joined them. In addition, there were 2 other great Dominator Beast Cultivators gathered together, and their faces were full of caution. Hong Ying, can you feel their presence? Long Yu activated the balance control with all his strength, but he could not feel the location of the 3 ice gods. He frowned, and his heart was full of anxiety. "No, I can't feel them. Let me try to deduce." Hong Ying shook her head, and then immediately activated the secret martial arts technique of the Blood Demon clan, which strengthened her deduction ability by several times. She directly connected the deduction ability to Han Hen, because the 3 ice gods were Han Hen, who had ambushed them the moment they appeared. Deducing from Han Hen was the fastest way to get information about the ice gods. "How is it? Any movement?" Tian Song and Hai Shu guarded Long Yu and Red Oriole with extreme vigilance. They activated their probing divine runes with all their might and searched the surrounding 10,000-kilometer radius, but they couldn't find any movement from the three ice gods. Either the three Ice God clan members had already left, or the three Ice God clan members' concealment methods were too powerful. I can't deduce them. I only know that they're still around us and haven't left, because I can't feel any fluctuation of space divine symbols. Honging shook her head, a little helpless. The deduction ability was not omnipotent, after all. Besides, the enemy's methods were too sophisticated. So many of them were searching together, but they still could not detect the enemy's location. It was really shocking. If we don't find them and kill them, it will be too dangerous for them to hide in the surroundings. Since we can't find them, we have to make them come out on their own. Long Yu thought to himself, but he did not say anything. Determination flashed in his eyes. He exchanged a look with Hong Ying and finally made up his mind. Hong Ying saw through Long Yu's intention from his look. She was a little nervous. However, she trusted Long Yu very much, so she did not stop him. Everyone get ready. Prepare to perform control techniques around Long Yu. Hong Ying quickly communicated what she was going to do to the other great sovereigns around her through the balance control method. Control techniques around Long Yu? What was the reason? Chapter 1203. Seeing that Long Yu had left the protection of Tian Song and Hai Shu and walked into the void alone, everyone was shocked. Long Yu was only at the level of a 5-star emperor. Walking out of the crowd alone like this could basically be said to be courting death. He wants to use his own life as a bet to lure out the three ice gods. Such decisiveness. I admire him. Dao Qing saw this and also admired Long Yu a little. Although he felt that Long Yu's move was too reckless, it was very likely that it would lead to the death of their 13 people. But after thinking about it carefully, what else could Long Yu do in their team except for this kind of thing? Immediately, Dao Qing made preparations. Once the ice gods really appeared to attack Long Yu, he could immediately use his means to control the three ice gods. At the beginning, when the ice gods sneaked up on Han Hen, none of them reacted in time, which led to the three ice gods escaping. But now that they were prepared, they could not let the ice gods succeed again. Now the only thing they needed to worry about was whether the three ice gods would be fooled. After all, the ice gods were also intelligent beings, absolutely not as stupid as the demon clan or the human clan. Now that Long Yu walked out alone, such an obvious means of luring them, it was inevitable that the other party would see through it. If the other party saw through it, would they still care about Long Yu, a 5-star emperor kid? Even if they ignored him, such a kid would not pose any threat to the ice gods. Such doubts were not only in Dao Qing's heart, but also in the hearts of the other great sovereigns, including Red Oriole. They did not know how Long Yu could be so sure that he could lure the three ice gods out. And this problem was not a problem at all for Long Yu, because he had the holy relics of the ice gods. The holy relics of the ice gods, the fire gods, the earth gods, and so on were all taken away by the Juyo Dragon Emperor and sealed in the Netherworld realm. In the past, many foreign races would often cross a long distance to enter the Netherworld realm to search for the whereabouts of the holy relics. But now, the location of the Netherworld realm had completely changed, and it was impossible for the foreign races to enter the Netherworld realm. After Long Yu gained control of 80% of the 9 Nethermarks. He had already obtained all the sacred objects of the foreign races that were sealed within the 9 Netherrealm. Of course, he still placed them within the 9 Netherrealm. However, if he needed to, he could take them out any time. Back then, the Juyo Dragon Emperor was really arrogant. He actually broke into the core of so many foreign races' territories and stole their holy relics. Looking at the current territories of the human race and the demon race, there is absolutely no one who could do that. Otherwise, if the human race and the demon race joined forces, these foreign races would have long been annihilated. As Long Yu thought to himself, he slowly took out the Ice God clan's holy relic from the Netherworld realm. It was a light blue hexagonal crystal statue that looked like a miniature version of the Ice God clan. It contained the power source of 6 types of ice attribute divine characters, and it was infinitely attractive to the Ice God clan. For the Ice God clan, the importance of this hexagonal crystal statue was far greater than the fierce fire talisman that they were tasked to escort. Therefore, Long Yu could be sure that when he took out this hexagonal crystal statue, it would definitely attract all the surrounding Ice God clan members to attack him. If it wasn't for the Ice God clan's holy relic, even if the Ice God clan wanted to attack a 5-star emperor like Long Yu, it would be impossible for all 3 of them to attack him at the same time. At most, only one of them would attack him, and that still wouldn't be able to solve the problem that everyone was facing now. But now, Long Yu had taken out the Ice God clan's holy relic, and this was the biggest thing that he could rely on to lure the Ice God clan out. As soon as the aura of the Ice God clan's holy relic appeared, Long Yu did not hesitate to activate the deterrent power of the Netherworld True Spirit's source, followed by the magical power of the Book of Shadows, and directly turned into nothingness. He did not hesitate, because he was sure that the aura of the Ice God clan's holy relic could definitely lure the other party out, and once the other party appeared, with Long Yu's current martial arts realm, it was absolutely impossible for him to survive. Therefore, he only revealed a little bit of the aura of the Ice God clan's holy relic, and immediately activated the magical power of the Book of Shadows to turn himself into nothingness. This was to ensure his safety to the greatest extent. Sure enough, as soon as Long Yu turned into nothingness, countless ice crystals appeared from the void, instantly piercing the place where he was originally, and 6 Ice God clan members became extremely frantic and flew in the direction of Long Yu. When the Ice God clan's holy relic appeared, all the surrounding Ice God clan members went crazy. There were a total of 6 of them, and all of them were powerful existences in the Great Sovereign Realm. These 6 Ice God clan members appeared from different directions, rushing toward where Long Yu was. All kinds of ice attribute divine runes turned into terrifying weapons, breaking the void, wanting to cut Long Yu into pieces. However, Long Yu had already turned into nothingness before this. No matter what attack it was, it could not affect Long Yu. Of course, the strength of these 6 Ice God clan members' attack was too strong. Perhaps Long Yu's turning into nothingness would not be able to last for too long. After turning into nothingness, Long Yu was actually in a solid nothingness space. If the opponent's attack was too strong, this nothingness space would shatter, and Long Yu would return to his normal state from the state of nothingness. Of course, if the nothingness space wanted to resist the attack of the 6 Ice God clan members, it would not be so easy to shatter it. Therefore, these 6 Ice God clan members were destined to return empty-handed. Not only would they not be able to get the Ice God clan's holy relic, they would not even be able to touch the corner of Long Yu's clothes. Instead, they would fall into a trap. When these 6 Ice God clan members saw the Ice God clan's holy relic, they did not think much and directly rushed out. In their opinion, Long Yu was just a 5-star emperor, and if they attacked him, they would be able to snatch the holy relic in an instant. However, they did not expect that Long Yu was already prepared and had a heaven-defying move like turning into nothingness. The 6 Ice God clan members attacked at the same time, but they all missed. At this time, Dao Qing and the surrounding people's control ability suddenly covered the sky and covered the earth. 8 kinds of divine runes, all kinds of innate abilities, weapons, and martial skills were displayed. Other than Long Yu and the frozen and unconscious Han Hen, the remaining 11 people attacked separately, controlling the 6 Ice God clan members. Entangling vines, freezing cold, dark imprisonment, light barrier. A series of control methods completely enveloped the 6 Ice God clan members, and every one of them was instantly immobilized. Attack, kill them. Dao Qing didn't hesitate and immediately ordered everyone to attack. All kinds of violent and boundless divine characters instantly poured out. 10 Sovereign Realm experts and Red Oriole, who was in the higher Sovereign Realm, attacked together. Their auras shook heaven and earth, and even the void trembled. The 6 members of the Ice God clan, under such a powerful divine text attack only lasted for a short time before they were completely turned into ashes. None of the 6 members of the Ice God clan could withstand the attack. Although their bodies were strong, the Ice God clan side had more people, and they were already prepared to deal with them. Attracted by the Ice God clan's holy relic, the 6 Ice God clan members acted rashly, and they were directly killed by Dao Qing and the others. As the bodies of the 6 Ice God clan members shattered into nothingness in the void, everyone thought of Long Yu, and their hearts were in their mouths, wondering how Long Yu was doing. Especially Red Oriole, although she was very confident in Long Yu. What if something happened to him? Fortunately, Long Yu's figure gradually appeared from the void, and he reappeared in front of everyone. Moreover, he was still in perfect condition. The sneak attack of the 6 Ice God clan members didn't cause any damage to Long Yu. That was close. If I hadn't turned into nothingness in advance and used the 9 nether origin deterrents, I'm afraid I would have died without a burial place. Long Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Now that he was sure that there were no other Ice God clan members in the surroundings, he immediately kept the Ice God clan's holy relic back into the 9 nether realm. He raised his head and looked around. He noticed that the 10 sovereigns and demonic cultivators were looking at him in a different light. Red Oriole was very glad that Han Hen of the Divinewood clan was frozen unconscious and hadn't woken up yet. As for the remaining 10 people, including Dao Qing, Tian Song, and Hai Shu, they now looked at Long Yu with admiration in their eyes. After all, Long Yu's brazen appearance and action of luring the Ice God clan out was something that even they wouldn't dare to do. Moreover, they might not be able to come out unscathed. Now Long Yu, who they had looked down on, had done it. There was no doubt that Long Yu had now shown his value and strength to them. Most importantly, this kid might be able to bring them out of their predicament at the critical moment. In that situation, if Long Yu hadn't suddenly stepped forward and volunteered to be the bait, perhaps the 6 Ice God clan members would have been lying in ambush for a long time, waiting for an opportunity to strike, or even waiting for more Ice God clan members to come and attack together. At that time, the Ice God clan members might really not be able to resist. But now, Long Yu's action of luring the Ice God clan members had succeeded in eliminating the 6 Ice God clan members' vanguard, relieving them of the first crisis they had encountered in this mission. Haha kid, impressive. It seems that we have all misjudged you. The middle-aged man from the Heavenly Wings clan, Tian Song, laughed heartily. His impression of Long Yu suddenly changed, and he became more confident in completing this escort mission. Not bad, not bad. If this escort mission is completed, I will definitely report it to the army on the battlefield. If you succeed, only 5,000 merit points is too little. Chapter 1204. Among the people present, other than the handsome young man of the Divinewood race, Han Hen, the other 10 great sovereigns all changed their opinion of Long Yu. This was especially true for Dao Qing, Tian Song, and Hai Shu. They did not have any prejudice against Long Yu in the first place, and now they admired him even more. This kid actually stepped forward at a critical moment and acted as bait for them to capture the first wave of Ice God race. Although I don't know how you lured all 6 of them to appear together, you did well. If this mission is successful, I will personally give you 10,000 army merit points. Dao Qing laughed and patted Long Yu's shoulder. But we can't relax now. Firebird, take Han Hen and hurry up. We don't have time to waste. Although we have defeated the first wave of the Ice God clan, they will soon organize a second wave of attacks. At that time, it will not be easy to resist them. Emin, the great sovereign who had saved Han Hen, Firebird, nodded and activated a Fire Cloud Battle Soldier. She placed Han Hen on the Fire Cloud Battle Soldier and quickly followed Dao Qing and the others to fly forward. Long Yu did not think too much about it. He returned to Red Oriole's side. Red Oriole was very worried and immediately pulled his arm. Don't be so reckless next time. Speaking of which, how did you lure all of them out? I don't believe that all 6 Ice God race will come out together with a 5-star Emperor brat like you. Are you looking down on me? Long Yu laughed. So what if I'm a 5-star Emperor? They appear together because I am too much of a threat. If it were you, they would definitely not appear together. You're still so smug. Red Oriole snorted softly, but did not ask any more questions. She knew that this was probably one of Long Yu's more important secrets. However, Long Yu didn't know much about the Ice God race's sacred artifact, and he didn't think that it was a very important secret. Just like the Bone race and the Vestigial race, it would be very troublesome if news of it spread, but it didn't matter if he told Red Oriole. Thus, Long Yu quietly told Red Oriole about the sacred relic of the Ice God clan. Also, regardless of whether it's the Ice God clan, the Earth God clan, the Fire God clan, the Wood God clan, the Desolate God clan, or the Winged God clan, the sacred relics of the 6 great foreign god clans are all in my possession. These are all things that the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor plundered and placed in the Netherworld realm. Of course, I don't know what use I have for these things. The sacred artifacts of the 6 outer god races. Red Oriole was truly stunned when she heard this. Just how heaven-defying was this Jiuyo Dragon Emperor? He had actually snatched all the holy artifacts of the 6 foreign god tribes and placed them in his small world. Of course, it was also possible that the overall strength of the foreign god tribes hundreds of millions of years ago wasn't strong enough and couldn't compare to the present. However, it was enough to show the terrifying strength of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. I've heard some rumors about the sacred relics of the foreign god tribes. Red Oriole glanced around. Seeing that no one was paying attention to her, she whispered to Long Yu, "Have you heard about the origin of the foreign god tribes?" The origin of the foreign god tribes seems to be related to a miracle. Although the various foreign god tribes aren't friendly with each other now, it's said that in the beginning, the foreign god tribes were all united, just like the current demon race. Rumor has it that in the beginning, some sacred relics appeared in the origin of the foreign god tribes. The power that the foreign god tribes possess is comprehended from these sacred relics. Of course, later on, the foreign god tribes were able to comprehend some of the power of the divine runes without relying on these sacred relics. However, these sacred relics are the spiritual symbols of the foreign god tribes and represent their origin. After hearing this, Long Yu finally understood what the sacred relics of the foreign god tribes were used for. They were actually a spiritual symbol. There are more than 6 races among the foreign god tribes. There are also some other races, but they have basically perished. Only these 6 are left. Red Oriole continued to explain to Long Yu. The Ice God tribe, the Fire God tribe, the Wood God tribe, the Desolate God tribe, the Earth God tribe, and the Winged God tribe were a total of 6 races. They were the more powerful foreign races and had always posed a threat to the demon race and the human race's territories. Fortunately, they fought on their own. If they were to join forces with their current strength, the human race and the demon race would immediately be in danger. In that case, I have a possible guess. Long Yu narrowed his eyes and said to Red Oriole, "These sacred relics appeared from the origin of the origin, which means that they must have a certain connection to the origin. I believe that the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor wouldn't snatch other people's sacred relics for no reason. Since they don't have any substantial use, then the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor must have snatched these sacred relics for the origin of the origin. This is only a rumor. As for whether it's true or not, it remains to be seen." Red Oriole nodded, then shook her head. First, she affirmed Long Yu's guess. Then she expressed that this rumor couldn't be completely trusted. "Well, no matter what, we finally have some clues. Although it doesn't seem to be of much use for now, but at this point," Long Yu still shook his head. "Forget it. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's complete this escort mission first." He originally wanted to say that if these sacred relics of the Outer God race could be connected to the origin of the Outer God race, they might be able to obtain some information about the gods. However, this matter was still too far away from the current Long Yu. Even if Long Yu stepped into the realm of the Great Ruler, it was far from enough to consider this matter, unless he could step into the realm of the demigod. Red Oriole didn't ask any more questions. In the eyes of ordinary people, the sacred relics of the Outer God race were ultimately useless, and it would even attract some special danger if they carried them on them. Everyone continued forward. After the first wave of attacks from the 6 ice gods, everyone, including Dao Qing, became more cautious. Not long after, the great ruler of the divine wood demon race, the handsome young man Han Hen, who had been ambushed by the ice gods and was frozen unconscious, finally slowly woke up and regained some consciousness. "What's wrong with me?" Han Hen woke up in a daze, but he quickly reacted. This was because he remembered that the moment before he fainted, the 3 Ice God clan sovereigns had launched a sneak attack on him. They had frozen him and used their ice crystal swords to pierce through his physical defenses. However, now that he looked at himself, he found that all his injuries had healed, but at the same time, the 2 healing elixirs that were hidden in his sleeves had disappeared. Seeing that he was riding on a flaming cloud soldier, Han Hen immediately knew that it was the Firebird that had saved him, but it had used his healing elixirs, of course. Han Hen didn't resent the Firebird now, but he felt that it was a pity that those 2 immemorial healing elixirs were gone just like that. Didn't I only need to use one? Why did she stuff both of them into my body? Han Hen thought to himself. He looked around and saw that everyone was moving forward quickly, so he had a rough idea of the situation. He smiled and said, "It seems that everyone has gotten rid of the 3 ice gods." How naive of you to dare to ambush me, Han Hen. "Sneak attacks will only lead to death." He said it as if he was the reason why everyone could get rid of the ice gods. First of all, there were not 3 ice gods in the first wave of attacks, but 6. The Firebird said calmly. "Secondly, you didn't even last until the rest of us took action and the 3 ice gods disappeared again. Later, it was Brother Long Yu who took the initiative to act as the bait and lured the 6 ice gods out again." When Han Hen heard these words, he immediately felt that he was going to faint. After all this time, Han Hen was just a joke from the beginning to the end. In the end, the credit was snatched by the 5-star Emperor. This didn't make sense. However, when Han Hen swept a glance at the surrounding people, he discovered that everyone was looking at Long Yu with admiration in their eyes. From this, it could be seen that what the Firebird had said was absolutely true. This gave Han Hen a heavy blow. Originally, he had always looked down on Long Yu and wanted to attract Red Oriole's attention. But now, it seemed that he was like a clown. How could Han Hen accept such a thing? One had to know that he was a sovereign realm expert, while Long Yu was just a 5-star emperor. If he, a sovereign realm expert of the divine wood demonic tribe, couldn't even beat a 5-star emperor of the human race, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? Of course, now that things had come to this, Han Hen couldn't verbally attack Long Yu, because he knew that doing so would only make others look down on him even more. Therefore, Han Hen could only nod his head at Long Yu and put on a fake smile, so that's how it is. Little brother Long is not bad, not bad. Han Hen, would like to apologize to you here. I hope that we can work together to complete this escort mission. This Han Hen was able to see the situation clearly. Although his character wasn't good, he was much smarter than the 3rd prince of the Golden Flood Dragon demonic tribe. After all, he was already a sovereign realm expert and had experienced enough things. He knew how to survive and cultivate better. When Long Yu heard this, he didn't have any reaction because he didn't want to give face to the other party. This Han Hen had humiliated and ridiculed him before, so it would be strange if he gave face to the other party. This performance almost angered Han Hen half to death, and he hated Long Yu even more. However, he didn't dare to show it on the surface, because he could see that the surrounding people's impression of Long Yu had completely changed. It seemed that when he was frozen unconscious, the things that happened were very disadvantageous to him. Han Hen felt that he had lost a lot of face, but he did not argue with Long Yu. He only decided that he would perform better than Long Yu in the future. Chapter 1205. Everyone continued to move forward, but the atmosphere was completely different from before. In the beginning, everyone regarded Long Yu and Red Oriole as bystanders, thinking that they would not play a big role in this escort mission. But now, their impression of Red Oriole and Long Yu had completely changed, especially when Long Yu took the initiative to jump out and attract the 6 ice gods. These people admired Long Yu very much. What they admired was not only Long Yu's courage, but also that Long Yu was able to directly attract all 6 ice gods. If they were in Long Yu's position at that time, they would not be able to attract all the hidden ice gods. Moreover, Long Yu, with the strength of a 5-star emperor, survived the joint attack of 6 ice gods. Not only did he survive, but he was also not injured at all. This was undoubtedly a miracle. Dao Qing, Tian Song, Hai Shu, and the others found it hard to believe that such a thing would happen in front of them. One must know that Long Yuko was just a little guy with the cultivation of a 5-star monarch. But the opponents were 6 ice god great sovereigns. The gap between the two sides' cultivation was so big, but Long Yu was able to plot against them. It was really not easy. There are indeed some things in this world that cannot be made up by martial arts realm. Even if little brother Long is only a 5-star emperor, he is much stronger than us in some aspects. Tian Song, the middle-aged man with dashing eyebrows and bright eyes, said with a smile, "Yes, I remember when I was still a 5-star emperor, I never fought with opponents at the level of a great sovereign. Little brother Long actually lured out 6 ice god great sovereigns by himself and easily avoided their surprise attack. No matter what means he used, it is very amazing." The Sea Wing clan's blue-haired woman, Hai Shu, also admired Long Yu very much. Both of them could be considered as relatively strong experts in the sovereign realm. Since both of them had such an opinion of Long Yu, it was clear that Long Yu's performance was indeed shocking. It wasn't just Tian Song and Hai Shu. The other sovereigns all admired Long Yu, including the Firebird sovereign who had saved Han Hen, the young man from the Godwood clan. If little brother Dragon can continue to perform so well, it won't be a problem for us to complete this mission. Ha! The Firebird's evaluation of Long Yu was even higher than that of the others, which made Han Hen, who was at the side, more and more unhappy. However, he did not dare to refute it. After all, Long Yu had indeed made great contributions in the first battle against the Ice God clan, while Han Hen had made no contribution at all. If he had to make any contribution, it would be that he had drawn out the 3 ice gods first and let everyone know of the existence of the ice gods. The group continued to advance, and soon they had entered the depths of the battlefield of the outsiders. Princess, little brother Dragon, pay attention to the fluctuations of the space divine characters at all times. If there is anything unusual, report it immediately. Dao Qing was very vigilant at this moment, and he said to Long Yu and Red Oriole. He knew very well that Long Yu and Red Oriole were the first to react and prepare for the first wave of the Ice God clan's attack. He did not know how Long Yu and Red Oriole knew, but he only needed to know that Long Yu and Red Oriole had this kind of detection ability that was stronger than theirs. Dao Qing was the leader, but he did not need to be stronger than others in everything. The so-called leader only needed to be able to discover each member's specialty and then make good use of these specialties. Long Yu and Red Oriole's detection ability was strong, so it was the best choice to let them be the lookout. I just sensed a very subtle fluctuation of the space divine characters, but it is a little far from our current position, more than 1,000,000 miles away. Long Yu said in a low voice. Another piece of bad news is that this kind of fluctuation of the space divine characters appeared 8 times at the same time, in different directions, more than 1,000,000 miles away from us. If every time the fluctuation of the space divine characters appears, like before, 6 ice gods appear, I think we are in big trouble. Red Oriole's face also darkened. Just now, she had used the martial arts secret technique of balance control, and Long Yu had sensed the fluctuation of the space divine characters almost at the same time. Although it was very subtle, with the martial arts secret technique of balance control, they had still sensed it clearly. The fluctuation of the space divine characters was very weak, but if not for the appearance of the ice gods, there would definitely not be such fluctuations of the space divine characters. Moreover, the 8 fluctuations of the space divine characters had appeared with their team as the center in 8 directions 1,000,000 miles away. It was clear that they were most likely surrounded by the ice gods, and the number of the ice gods on their side was very likely to far exceed the number of sovereigns on their side. Get ready for a large-scale battle. It is very likely that more than 40 ice gods will appear and besiege us from all directions. If this is really the case, we must all join forces and strive to break through from one direction. Dao Qing said in a low voice. Immediately afterward, everyone felt a faintly discernible chill begin to encircle all of them, and the temperature of the void around them suddenly dropped. The ice gods had not yet appeared, but the tyrannical chill had already swept in front of everyone, causing everyone's expression to become serious, and they were ready to attack at any time. Once there was any trace of the ice gods within their field of vision, they would attack brazenly. However, as the boundless chill encircled them, Long Yu and the others became tense, but there was no trace of the ice gods. The surrounding void was still the void, a void of nothingness. As Long Yu and the others continued to fly forward, only the chill became thicker and thicker, and the ice gods seemed to be searching for something. Is it because I took out the sacred relic of the ice gods before? It shouldn't be possible. After all, the sacred relic of the ice gods only appeared for a very short time, so short that only the cultivators close to it could feel its breath, and the 6 ice gods have all been eliminated. Logically speaking, there can't be other ice gods nearby at that time. I believe that no ice gods can resist the temptation of the sacred relic of the ice gods. Long Yu kept thinking about the possible situations in his mind, and finally came to the conclusion that the newly appeared ice gods on the other side must be using the chill to set up some kind of formation. If they continued to fly forward indifferently like this, when the chill formation really appeared, it would be the time of death for all of them. Before Long Yu said this guess, the temporary leader of the group, Dao Qing, took the lead and roared, "Those who know how to dispel magic or martial arts, use all of them to dispel the chill around us. Don't let the chill stay in the area around us." Tian Song, Hai Shu, you two joined forces and used the secret method of Wings of Selvon. Okay, both Tian Song and Hai Shu's expressions changed. They did not expect Dao Qing to order them to use the Wings of Selvon so quickly. The Wings of Selvon was a secret martial art, but it was a secret martial art that only some of the demonic cultivators of the colossal winged galaxy could cultivate. Under certain circumstances, the effect of using the Wings of Selvon would be quite good, just like now. After hearing Dao Qing's instructions, the two of them did not hesitate and directly displayed this move. They had both cultivated a powerful martial arts secret method to the 6th level. In an instant, a strange and eerie aura emanated from their bodies and condensed into a pair of huge black wings. The two of them unleashed a secret martial art technique, but they condensed a pair of wings instead of 2. Long Yu saw the secret martial art that Tian Song and Hai Shu used, and suddenly his eyes lit up. This secret martial art seemed to be able to combine the power of Tian Song and Hai Shu, and it seemed to be very powerful. Brother Long, you don't know, do you? Off to the side, Red Oriole giggled, finding the pride of being a powerful Yao cultivator. The Wings of Evernight is a powerful secret martial art that many of the winged race of the giant winged galaxy wield. The greatest characteristic of this secret art is that it can be fused. The so-called mutual fusion means that every 2 demon cultivators who cultivate this secret technique can choose to fuse with each other when they use the Selvon Wings martial arts secret technique. Then they can form an even more powerful Selvon Wings. It can even be fused by 3 people, 4 people, or even hundreds or thousands of people. The combined Wings of Selvon is very powerful, especially on the battlefield. When 1,000 Wings of Selvon are combined with the Wings of Selvon, even a demigod can be forced to retreat. It's not hard to imagine how powerful this secret martial art is. The only shortcoming of this secret martial art is that its basic power is too weak. If it can't be combined, the power of this secret martial art is even weaker than other common secret martial arts. With Red Oriole's explanation, Long Yu finally figured out the special feature of the Wings of Selvon. It turned out that the secret martial art of the Wings of Selvon could be combined. How amazing! In the field, as Tian Song and Hai Shu combined their Wings of Selvon, Dao Qing also joined them. She also activated the power of the divine glyphs in her body and performed the secret martial art of the Wings of Selvon. The secret martial art of the Wings of Selvon was completely combined in the void, forming a huge pair of pitch-black Wings of Selvon. As soon as the pair of huge, pitch-black wings appeared, they immediately flapped, dispersing the boundless cold air in the surroundings. Then, they flew towards a direction in the distance, carrying with them an incomparably dense and sharp aura, instantly penetrating the entire void in that direction. In just a moment, the huge pair of Wings of Selvon appeared 1,000,000 kilometers away, and the void in between was filled with the aura of Selvon. Chapter 1206. The power of the Wings of Sylvan surprised everyone. Only a few people, who had seen the various races of the colossal winged galaxy working together to form the Wings of Sylvan, were not shocked. There's actually such a martial arts secret technique in the world. If that's the case, won't the various races of the colossal winged galaxy be invincible if they work together? Long Yu couldn't help but exclaim, "That's not the case." Red Oriole shook her head and said, "The Wings of Sylvan is powerful, and theoretically, the more people it fuses with, the more powerful it becomes. But in reality, the more people it fuses with, the more limited the increase in power. The difference between one person and 10 people working together is like heaven and earth. But compared to 10 people and 100 people, the difference is only 2 or 3 times. If 100 people and 1,000 people are compared, the difference is only 2 or 3 times. When 1,000 people and more people are fused, the increase in power is not very obvious. It's basically negligible. So, the Wings of Sylvan can basically be used by 1,000 people." Hearing this, Long Yu suddenly understood and nodded his head. When there were more than 1,000 people, the difference would not be too big no matter how many people work together. Although the Wings of Sylvan was a martial arts secret technique, it could not be improved infinitely. As Tian Song, Hai Shu, and Dao Qing joined forces to display the tyrannical Wings of Sylvan, they swept forward in an instant, and several Ice God clan corpses appeared in the void. These ice gods were also powerful existences in the great sovereign realm, but under the sweep of the Wings of Sylvan, they could not withstand it and were directly cut into pieces. What followed was the attack of the others. Through the Wings of Sylvan, everyone already knew that there were many Ice God clan experts around them, and that they were trying to ambush them. The only thing they could do was to take the initiative and launch a fatal attack, while the opponents were still preparing something. All the great sovereigns and Red Oriole, including the handsome young man of the Divine Wood Monster clan, displayed a powerful killing move at this time, directly sweeping into the distance. The power of all kinds of divine characters condensed together and instantly crossed a distance of dozens of miles, hitting the Ice God clan experts hidden in the void. But unfortunately, compared to the Wings of Selvon that Tian Song, Hai Shu, and Dao Qing had just used, the various methods that they used now could not cause much damage to the Ice God clan. After all, the Ice God clan experts were still relatively far away. At a distance of tens of thousands of miles, it was difficult for their attacks to have any effect. Moreover, the Wings of Sylvan just now had alerted the Ice God clan experts. Although this wave of attacks did not have much lethality, it still managed to force many ice gods out of their hiding state. Each of them appeared in the void, and one by one, snow-white hexagonal ice crystal creatures appeared in front of everyone. All of them were great sovereigns. In this direction alone, there were more than 10 great sovereigns. It was obvious that they were surrounded by Ice God clan experts. With so many Ice God clan powerhouses moving out at the same time, it could be seen how determined the Ice God clan was to obtain the Fierce Fire symbol this time. Everyone, be careful. Get ready to break out of the encirclement. Dao Qing's face darkened. When he saw that there were so many Ice God clan experts around, He knew that the Ice God clan had put in a lot of effort today. They were going to intercept this batch of fierce fire symbols no matter what. Because on the front line of the battlefield of the foreign clans, the Monster Clan and the Ice God clan were fighting fiercely. It seemed that some key resources would be fought for, and it all depended on the victory of this battle. The ownership of this batch of fierce fire talismans basically decided who the victor of this battle would be. Even so, they have sent nearly 50 great sovereigns to deal with us. They think too highly of us, Tian Song of the Heavenly Wings clan said in a low voice. Everyone knew that it was impossible for them to eliminate all the invading Ice God clan experts, because there were too many of them. Although the 3 of them had killed 4 or 5 Ice God clan experts with the Wings of Selvon, the consumption of the Wings of Selvon was too great. In a short period of time, it was impossible for them to use the Wings of Selvon again. Therefore, it was basically impossible to eliminate the enemy completely. What they could do now was to try to escape from the enemy's encirclement and finally send the fierce fire symbols to the front line. Now, the fierce fire symbols were in Dao Qing's hands, so the most important thing for everyone was to protect Dao Qing and let him send the fierce fire symbols out. Hurry up! Everyone had the intention to rush out of the encirclement. Almost immediately, they displayed their tyrannical martial arts skills. Their speed instantly increased to the extreme. Although this speed could not be maintained for long, they had to use all means possible to rush out of the encirclement. The endless power of the Ice God characters gathered from all directions again. Although 4 or 5 Ice God clan experts had been killed, the remaining ones could still easily kill Long Yu and the others. Dao Qing and the others used all kinds of powerful means at this moment. At this moment, they used all kinds of innate magic skills, mainly defensive magic skills. All of them wanted to block the power of the Ice God characters. For example, the Firebird Great Sovereign directly condensed a burst of heavenly fire and blasted it, forcing the endless Ice God characters away. At this moment, the handsome young man of the Divine Wood Monster Clan, Han Hen, naturally had no time to look at Long Yu. His body had already turned into the body of a Divine Wood Monster cultivator. A giant tree suddenly grew. Countless emerald green branches and leaves spread, forming layers of divine wood barriers, temporarily blocking the endless Ice God characters outside. The 10 great sovereigns used all kinds of powerful means, and most of them had already transformed into their true forms. Only then did they manage to block the Ice God characters outside. In the center of the inner circle was Dao Qing, who held the fierce fire talisman. Red Oriole and Long Yu, who were not great sovereigns, followed the rest of the group. But from the looks of it, if no one came to help, none of them would be able to escape from here. I'll go help as well, Red Oriole said to Long Yu, then took out a blood-red scimitar. The scimitar flickered with lightning and fire. It was a powerful combat weapon with dual attributes of lightning and fire. It was the unbounded combat weapon she had obtained not long ago, and she named it Blood Thunder Fire Scimitar. As a pair of blood-red wings spread out from her back, a terrifying and sinister aura instantly spread out, overshadowing the many great sovereigns around her. Kill! Red Oriole didn't hesitate. She attacked in all directions. The blood-red scimitar was accompanied by lightning and fire. Like a shooting star, it instantly shattered the void and slashed towards the 2 great sovereigns of the Ice God clan closest to her. In Red Oriole's hands, the power of the unbounded combat weapon was far greater than Long Yu had imagined. It was much more powerful than when he used the Dragon Blood Sacred Diagram or the Duan Kong Sacred Spring. In an instant, the 2 great sovereigns of the Ice God clan were killed by the blood-red scimitar. Their hexagonal ice crystal bodies were cut into several pieces, and the power of lightning and fire corroded them. Blood spread out, staining their broken ice crystal bodies. Amazing! Red Oriole's display of power caused the surrounding great sovereigns to have a whole new level of respect for her. As expected of the princess of the Blood Demon clan, she had finally revealed her powerful side. Although she was only at the higher sovereign realm, she was able to kill 2 of the great sovereigns of the Ice God clan in a single move. For other great sovereign realm demonic beast cultivators, this was something difficult to achieve. Not to mention killing 2 in a single move. The others couldn't even kill one because the great sovereigns of the Ice God clan worked in pairs. Attacking one would provoke the other's joint defense. It was impossible to kill both of them at the same time, unless they were like Red Oriole, who used absolute power to defeat them. However, Red Oriole's actions seemed to have angered the other great sovereigns of the Ice God clan. The temperature of the surrounding cold air kept dropping as dozens of great sovereigns of the Ice God clan gathered. More and more cold air gathered, gradually showing signs of freezing the entire void. It's the absolute ice ceiling formation of the Ice God clan. This is bad. Most of them could see what the other party was using, and they were shocked. The absolute ice ceiling formation was a very powerful formation of the Ice God clan. Once it was used, it wouldn't be a problem even if they were outnumbered, not to mention that the other party far outnumbered them. It seems that they don't want to suffer too many losses when dealing with us. The main reason is that including the 6 great sovereigns of the Ice God clan in the first wave, a total of 13 great sovereigns of the Ice God clan have died in this operation. It seems that they can't hold back anymore. Although the absolute ice ceiling formation will consume some of their cultivation, they can kill all of us here without sacrificing too many lives. Dao Qing's face became even more gloomy. At this moment, they were facing 40 great sovereigns of the Ice God clan. There was no possibility of escaping. Even if they had twice the number of people, it would still be difficult to escape from such an encirclement. The absolute ice ceiling formation of the Ice God clan came very quickly. Once the other party had made up their mind, they would certainly not give Long Yu and the others too much time to think. From outside the encirclement, cold air spread rapidly. Wherever the power of the absolute ice ceiling formation reached, even the void was completely frozen, and everything in it fell into a state of complete stillness. Chapter 12:07. For the Ice Gods, fire attribute divine characters were what they hated the most. This was because ice and fire repelled each other, and fire attribute divine characters could restrain the Ice Gods to a certain extent. Therefore, the Firebird Great Sovereign became the first target of the Ice God clan. The absolute ice ceiling formation instantly spread to the front of the Firebird Great Sovereign, completely engulfing his entire body. The cold air was oppressive, and the waves of ice came crashing down. There was no way the Firebird Hegemon, by herself, would be able to withstand the absolute ice ceiling formation, which had been set up by so many people. Therefore, seeing that the Firebird Great Sovereign was being attacked, the other 3 great sovereigns and demonic cultivators around him attacked almost at the same time. For them, of course, the most important thing was to save the Firebird Great Sovereign. Otherwise, if the Firebird Great Sovereign died, it would be their turn next. Now that they joined forces, they still had a glimmer of hope of breaking the absolute ice ceiling formation. But once the Firebird Great Sovereign died, their chances would be even slimmer. Make your move, Raging Bell of the Netherworld. One of the demonic cultivators transformed into a black iron tiger. He opened his mouth and spat out a Raging Bell of the Netherworld. It turned out to be a powerful martial skill that had been fused with Shadow Attribute divine characters and Berserk Attribute divine characters. Although it was not an unbounded level martial skill, it had already reached the level of top-grade Archean level. It was the strongest skill apart from unbounded level martial skills. The Raging Bell of the Netherworld bust. The aura of the Berserk Attribute divine characters and the Shadow Attribute divine characters spread out in all directions, instantly dispersing half of the cold around the Firebird Great Sovereign. Of course, the Firebird Great Sovereign would not just sit and wait for death. As the absolute ice ceiling formation attacked, his whole body burst into flames. The endless power of fire attribute divine characters gushed out from the Firebird Great Sovereign's flaming wings like a volcanic eruption, completely dispersing the cold around the absolute ice sealing formation. With the combined strength of the two of them, they finally withstood the first wave of the absolute ice sealing formation. But this did not mean that they had won, because this wave of attack was only the first wave of the absolute ice sealing formation. Once the absolute ice sealing formation was formed, its attack would be endless and would never stop until everything within its range was completely frozen. Thunder, Fire, Blood Saber, explode. On the other side, Red Oriole was also being attacked by the absolute ice formation. However, with the help of her unbounded Thunderfire Crimson Blade and the blood-red divine symbol she had comprehended, she was able to repel the absolute ice formation wave after wave. The others were in a similar situation. Tian Song of the Heavenly Wings race and Hai Shu of the Sea Wings race stood back to back as they fought against the absolute ice sealing formation. However, as the absolute ice sealing formation became stronger and stronger, more and more powerful waves of extreme cold attacked them, making it harder and harder for them to hold on. Although the absolute ice sealing formation had only launched about 5 waves of attacks, everyone, including Dao Qing, was already on the verge of collapsing. Only Long Yu stood in their protective circle and did not encounter any danger for the time being. However, with his current martial arts realm and cultivation, he could not be of much help. The absolute ice sealing array is getting stronger and stronger. If this goes on, we will definitely die. Hai Shu of the Sea Wings race, who had short blue hair, gritted her teeth and furrowed her brows. What she said was the truth, and everyone present had realized it. However, even though they realized this, they didn't have any other way to solve this dilemma. The absolute ice sealing formation was originally one of the Ice God clan's killer moves. On the battlefield of the alien race, this move had killed and frozen countless opponents of the Ice God clan and buried countless people on the battlefield of the alien race. Moreover, the enemy's numbers were more than 3 times that of Long Yu's group. No matter how you looked at it, Long Yu and the others had no chance of survival. Who doesn't have any tricks up their sleeves? If we don't use them now, we won't have a chance to use them in the future. Dao Qing remained calm and roared angrily. After all, they were all experts in the great sovereign realm. Everyone had a few trump cards. If they didn't use them now, they were most likely waiting for others to use them first, so that they could preserve their trump cards. However, Dao Qing's roar also made everyone around realize this point. Even if they had a trump card that would be exposed after using it, they could at least give it a try. If they didn't do it now, they wouldn't have a chance in the future. All of them would be buried in the absolute ice sealing formation formed by the great sovereign of the Ice God clan. For a moment, everyone's aura soared, including Red Oriole. At this time, no one dared to hold back. The first thing that came into Long Yu's eyes were as many as 4 absolute beginning divine grade artifacts. The aura of the 4 absolute beginning divine grade artifacts instantly enveloped the entire area. The Firebird Great Sovereign first took out an absolute beginning divine grade artifact. It was a golden sun. As soon as it appeared, it illuminated the void, instantly dispersing the extreme cold currents in the surroundings. Then, with the golden sun as the center, the Firebird Sovereign spread his wings and instantly condensed dozens of golden fireballs. Each of these golden fireballs carried an incomparably terrifying destructive power. Compared to the strength he had displayed before, it was at least 10 times more powerful. Every golden fireball flew out and then exploded in a part of the absolute ice sealing formation, blasting a huge hole in that part of the formation. Moreover, golden flames continued to spread in all directions, nibbling away at more parts of the absolute ice sealing formation. Amazing! Long Yu was in the center of the group, watching this scene unfold. He was instantly shocked by the power of this attack. Even though he was still some distance away from the Firebird Sovereign, through his balance control, he could still sense the terrifying power that had exploded forth from the Firebird Sovereign. Not to mention other things, just in terms of destructive power alone, each golden fireball was at least 1,000 times more powerful than the Emperor's breath of the 9 underworlds, which Long Yu was currently using. This was the true strength of a great sovereign. Unless it was a life-and-death crisis, they would rarely use such a trump card. But now, if they still did not use their trump card, they might really die here. Moreover, the Firebird Great Sovereign and the others were also very clear that even if they used their trump card now, could they really break the absolute ice ceiling formation set up by the 40 or so ice gods? Not necessarily. Moreover, the possibility of breaking it was very small. It was precisely because of this that the others immediately took advantage of this moment to use their respective trump cards. If they wanted to fight, they should fight together. If they did not fight now, they would all be killed by the absolute ice ceiling formation after a while. Now that they joined forces and used their trump cards, they could at least delay the absolute ice ceiling formation from engulfing them. Moreover, if they attacked together, they had the highest chance of breaking this formation. Although the chances were slim, they still wanted to give it a try. In addition to the Firebird Great Sovereign, there were 3 other people who also used Divine Grade Absolute beginning weapons, including Dao Qing, Tian Song, and Hai Shu. The 3 powerful great sovereigns from the Giant Wing Galaxy were definitely among the top in terms of combat power among the crowd. This was evident from the fact that all 3 of them used Divine Grade Absolute beginning weapons. The robust Dao Qing took out a Primordium Green Saber, and his body transformed into an Azure Gale winged bird. He allowed the Primordium Green Saber to revolve around his body, and in next to no time, a terrifying gale tornado was formed. The gale tornado was filled with endless gale blades, and every single gale blade was capable of instantly slashing Long Yu's formidable body into mincemeat. Although Long Yu was only a 5th-star sovereign monarch, the strength of his fleshly body had definitely reached the level of a lesser sovereign or even a middle sovereign. Dao Qing could instantly kill trillions of existences like Long Yu with just one move. It was clear how terrifying the power of this move was when it was executed with a Divine Grade Absolute beginning weapon. As expected of a Divine Grade Absolute beginning weapon, Long Yu thought to himself, he had a deeper impression of great sovereigns. In the past, he did not think that there was an insurmountable gap between him and a great sovereign. Now, he knew that there was still a huge gap between him and a great sovereign. If he were to fight against a great sovereign, even if he used his half-baked 4 symbols killing prison ancient god forbidden technique, he would not be able to harm a single hair on his opponent's body. However, his opponent only needed one move to turn Long Yu's body into ashes. Of course, the only thing Long Yu could do in front of the great sovereigns was use the Book of Shadows to transform into nothingness. When transformed into nothingness, no attack would be able to affect Long Yu, unless the opponent first shattered the Book of Shadows into nothingness. The void space created by the Book of Shadows was 10 times stronger than Long Yu's physical body. Only Dao Qing could use the green Taichu saber to destroy the void space in an instant. Ordinary great sovereigns would not be able to destroy Long Yu's void space in one move. This was why Long Yu was able to survive the attacks of the 6 Ice God Clan great sovereigns. Absolute beginning sword seal. On the other side, the middle-aged man from the Heavenly Wings clan, Tian Song, raised his hand and summoned an absolute beginning sword seal. It was also a divine grade absolute beginning weapon, and he had awakened many layers of it. It was much stronger than the 3rd prince of the Golden Flood Dragon clan that Long Yu had fought before. When the absolute beginning sword seal appeared, countless sword auras appeared beside the winged swordsman. They instantly swept towards the absolute ice ceiling formation, completely dispersing the icy currents nearby. Absolute beginning sea dividing ring. Chapter 12:08. The Firebird Great Ruler, Dao Qing, Tian Song, and Hai Shu each took out a Divine Grade Absolute beginning weapon, and with the help of the Divine Grade Absolute beginning weapon, they unleashed an unprecedented terrifying power. They took turns to use all kinds of Divine Grade Absolute beginning weapons to break several large holes in the absolute ice ceiling formation formed by the 40 great rulers of the Ice God clan. However, compared to the absolute ice ceiling formation that was condensed by the other party, the holes that they had created now only occupied less than a tenth of the area. The power of the absolute ice ceiling formation in more areas was already closing in on all of them. After a while, all of them would probably be drowned in it. Such a powerful burst of 4 divine grade absolute beginning weapons still couldn't break the opponent's absolute ice ceiling formation. This absolute ice ceiling formation is indeed one of the most powerful formations of the Ice God clan. It's not without reason that it was invincible on the battlefield of the foreign tribes. The handsome young man from the Divine Wood Monster clan, Han Hen, gritted his teeth at this moment. In this situation, he couldn't help at all with his strength because he didn't have divine grade absolute beginning weapons like Dao Qing and the others. He was just an ordinary great ruler monster cultivator. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been ambushed and frozen by the 3 Ice God clansmen at the beginning, and even had to be rescued by the Firebird Great Ruler. Han Hen knew that there was nothing he could do now, and he could only watch others do their best. However, he still tried his best to exert the power of the divine with divine text. The exuberant green light continued to spread out, resisting the absolute ice ceiling formation from spreading towards him. Although the effect of his resistance was minimal, it could still slightly slow down the expansion of the absolute ice ceiling formation and buy time for others to perform. It seems that there's really no other way. The faces of the other 2 overlords had turned gloomy as well. They'd intended to keep their trump card a secret, but it would seem like only death would await them if they continued to hide their trump cards. At that time, what would be the point of hiding their trump cards? Therefore, the next moment, the 2 of them also exerted their own skills. One of them turned out to be a black dragon monster cultivator. He instantly transformed into his original form, and the power of the black thunderbolt divine text swept out, exploding fiercely in the direction of the absolute ice ceiling formation. Black lightning was the divine character power that he had comprehended. It was actually an extremely rare dual elemental divine character power. It was a combination of the darkness and light elemental divine characters, and it could explode with power that was several times greater than ordinary divine characters. Thunder was a light elemental divine text, while the black divine text was a darkness elemental divine text. Even though it was only an original level divine text, its power was only 2 or 3 times weaker than a revelation level divine text. It could be seen that this black thunderbolt divine text was the black water dragon's trump card. It was instantly used, and its terrifying destructive power swept across the entire area. The black thunderbolt covered the entire absolute ice ceiling array and actually weakened the entire absolute ice ceiling array by 30%. In this way, although he couldn't completely destroy the absolute ice ceiling array, he could create better conditions for others to break the absolute ice ceiling array. Divine Array, Heavenly Fiend. The other sovereign realm demonic beast cultivator transformed into a purple demonic wolf. He opened his mouth and spat out countless streaks of purple lightning as he executed a powerful Grade 1 divine formation, Sky Fiend. Divine characters, divine chains, and divine formations. Each level was stronger than the previous one, not to mention the Grade 1 divine formation that this person had executed. Long-used Grade 3 divine formation, Nine Abyss, could already allow him to fight opponents 2 or 3 levels higher than him, let alone the Grade 1 divine formation that this person had executed. A Grade 1 divine formation, Sky Fiend, was not something that just anyone could comprehend, and even more so, not everyone had the opportunity to comprehend it. For this person to be able to cultivate it, he must have had great luck. It was said that the cultivation method of a Grade 1 divine formation contained the mysteries of the heavens. Even if one person mastered it, they couldn't pass it on to others. This was because a Grade 1 divine formation seemed to contain a trace of the power of gods. For many sovereigns, a Grade 1 divine formation was one of the paths that could allow them to step into the demigod realm. To become a demigod expert, there were many conditions that could not be omitted, and comprehending a Grade 1 divine formation was one of them. At the very least, it could allow the cultivator to comprehend some of the power of gods. This purple demonic wolf cultivator had comprehended a Grade 1 divine formation, Sky Fiend. As a Grade 1 divine formation, coupled with his sovereign realm cultivation, countless streaks of purple lightning shot out from his mouth. The destructive power it contained was enough to make people tremble from the bottom of their hearts. Any streak of purple lightning that came into contact with the absolute ice sealing array, which had been weakened by 30%, could directly destroy the frigid ice chi, leaving not a single trace behind. As the purple lightning continued to spread, the absolute ice sealing array was in danger of collapsing. Good job. It's working. Amazing. Tian Song, Hai Shu, and the others were overjoyed. They didn't expect such a strong expert to be hiding in their group. To be able to comprehend a Grade 1 divine formation, this purple demonic wolf cultivator was stronger than anyone present. Don't celebrate too early. However, Dao Qing's expression was solemn. The Ice God clan has sent 30 to 40 great sovereigns. They've formed the absolute ice sealing array to eliminate us as quickly as possible. If this trick doesn't work, they'll definitely have other ways. Even if the 40 great sovereigns from the Ice God clan attack us together, we definitely won't be able to resist them. At most, we can kill a few of them, but our escort mission will ultimately fail. Dao Qing's words caused everyone's mood, which had just turned for the better, to plunge to the bottom again. Speaking of which, even if the absolute ice sealing array was broken, they might not be able to escape from the encirclement of so many sovereign realm experts. Everything, the odds of victory were still too slim. In particular, when the next scene appeared, everyone felt as if they had been hit in the head. When the purple celestial wolf beast cultivator attacked with the terrifying purple lightning of the Grade 1 god formation, the Sky Fiend formation, and was about to break the absolute ice sealing formation, a great sovereign Ice God clan member suddenly jumped out from the enemy's camp. This great sovereign realm expert from the Ice God clan was different from the other Ice God clan experts. The other Ice God clan experts all had hexagonal ice crystal bodies, but this great sovereign realm expert only had 5 edges, and there was a sword wound on the 6th edge that could never be healed. However, although this great sovereign realm expert was missing an edge, his aura suddenly surpassed that of the other great sovereigns of the Ice God clan. When the purple demonic wolf cultivator attacked, this great sovereign realm expert from the Ice God clan also jumped out, and endless cold air condensed into an ice crescent in midair. When this ice crescent appeared, it suddenly turned the surrounding void into an ice purgatory, and the terrible cold air pulled all the demonic cultivators and Long Yu in a terrible, extremely cold illusion. Even though Long Yu had cultivated the body of pure world to the 6th level, at this moment, he was completely unable to resist the opponent's illusion, because the opponent's strength was too strong. Except for existences in the demigod realm, perhaps no one could deal with the great sovereign realm expert of the Ice God clan who only had 5 edges left. The extremely cold illusion, including the purple demonic wolf cultivator, fell into it for a moment and didn't know how long it would take for him to wake up. Even if it was only for a moment, it was enough for the opponent to use enough means to kill him. There were countless experts on the alien race battlefield. Even though the purple demonic wolf cultivator had comprehended the Grade 1 divine formation Tian Sha, there were also terrifying experts of this level in the alien race, the Ice God clan. As soon as the pentagonal ice crystal great sovereign realm expert of the Ice God clan appeared, the whole situation on the battlefield was reversed again, and it was an instant reversal. An ice crescent directly turned the void into an extremely cold illusion, and everyone fell into it. The outcome of the battle seemed to have been decided at this moment. In the face of the pentagonal ice crystal great sovereign realm expert of the Ice God clan, the dozen or so people on the side had almost no power to resist and were about to be completely frozen by the opponent's ice divine characters. But the more dangerous the situation was, the more it could stimulate a cultivator's potential. This saying had been true since ancient times. Just as the extremely cold illusion descended and pulled everyone into it, Red Oriole's aura was instantly forced to soar, and there were signs that she was about to break through. Originally, Red Oriole was already a powerful demonic cultivator of the Upper Sovereign Realm, and she was only one step away from the Great Sovereign Realm. Now that she had experienced so many battles of life and death, and faced so much with Long Yu, her understanding of the Great Sovereign Realm had finally allowed her to cross that bottleneck. Her aura soared, and her martial arts realm increased. The gap between the Upper Sovereign Realm and the Great Sovereign Realm was not small. Blood Realm illusion, go all out. At this time, although the innate divine ability fruit of the Blood Realm, illusion divine ability in Red Oriole's small world had been damaged and had not yet recovered, she still resolutely used this move. The Blood Realm illusion was a powerful innate divine ability that Red Oriole used to trap her opponents in an illusion, but very few people knew its greatest effect. The Blood Realm illusion was in itself a kind of illusion, but its greatest effect was to break illusions and use illusions to deal with illusions. This was the strongest effect of the Blood Realm illusion. At that very moment, the pentagonal ice crystal great sovereign of the ice god race had unleashed a powerful illusion, summoning an icy crescent that dragged everyone into an extremely frigid illusion. However, Red Oriole had been forced to step into the Great Sovereign Realm by her opponent. Furthermore, she had unleashed the blood illusion world as soon as she broke through. The two illusory divine abilities clashed, and a terrifying burst of mental energy instantly erupted, and the fluctuations swept out in all directions. Chapter 1209. The conflict between the extreme cold illusion and the blood illusion realm erupted, allowing Long Yu and the others to break free from the extreme cold illusion. Only then did they realize that Red Oriole had broken through at this time, which is why she had helped them escape. If it weren't for Red Oriole, the Ice God clan's great sovereign expert would have been trapped by the extreme cold illusory realm. Even if it was only for a breath of time, the absolute ice seal formation would gather again and capture all of them in one fell swoop. She finally broke through. That's great. Long Yu watched as Red Oriole broke through. Her aura rose from the Upper Sovereign Realm to the Great Sovereign Realm. Her basic strength was at least 5 times stronger than before. This was a qualitative breakthrough. As for what changes Red Oriole had undergone after a breakthrough, Long Yu did not know. After all, he was only a 5-star emperor, not even a sovereign. His own small world had not been born yet, so it was impossible for him to know about the Great Sovereign Realm. There were some things that were difficult to understand before reaching a certain realm. Even if someone told you, it was difficult for you to completely understand it. Therefore, in general, cultivators with lower martial arts realms would not deliberately try to understand the changes that would occur in higher realms. Right now, Long Yu only needed to know that once he broke through to the lower sovereign realm, he would be able to condense his own small world and have his own comprehension of the world energy. It was useless to know about higher realms now. Luckily, she was brought along this time. She is indeed the princess of the Blood Demon clan. Impressive. After breaking free from the extreme frost illusion, even if it was only for a moment, Dao Qing was extremely scared. He knew that if Red Oriole had been just a little bit slower, everyone present would have been finished. After all, the opponent was a total of 40 Ice God clan great sovereigns. If they had fallen into the extreme frost illusion and lost the ability to resist, they would have been wiped out in an instant. At this time, the handsome young man of the divine with demonic clan, Han Hen, was so scared that tears and snot were running down his face. Originally, he did not think highly of Red Oriole, but now he knew that he had misjudged her. The princess of the Blood Demon clan had really saved all of them. Now that Red Oriole had broken through to the Great Sovereign Realm, what kind of terrifying combat strength would she possess? Would she be able to suppress the 40 Ice God clan great sovereigns? This was a question, but everyone had the same hope in their hearts. As long as the only true expert in the enemy's camp was the ice god race expert with the pentagonal ice crystal, then it was possible that Red Oriole could suppress the 40 great sovereigns on the other side. When Red Oriole was only an upper sovereign realm expert, she could already contend against the great sovereign realm expert, and even defeat them. Now that she had broken through the sovereign realm, and even defeated them, great sovereign realm expert was no sovereign realm expert would not be her. Apart from the powerful Ice God Clan exotic beast at the pentagonal ice crystal level, no matter how many ordinary Ice God Clan sovereigns came, they were nothing more than food for Red Oriole. Whether or not we can deal with that third stage sovereign realm Ice God Clan's expert will depend on our combined strength. The leader of the team, Dao Qing, said in a deep voice, "Among us, Niao, Tian Song, Hai Shu, Black Flood Dragon, and Purple Wolf are all level 2 sovereigns. With the addition of the Blood Demon Clan's princess, our combat strength is definitely comparable to a level 2 sovereigns or even slightly higher. It is not impossible for us to deal with that Ice God Clan expert. I'm just worried that there are other experts hiding in the enemy's camp." Red Oriole said solemnly, her expression extremely solemn. When Long Yu heard the two's words, he started to ponder. Third stage dominator, second stage dominator. From the sound of it, even though they were both in the dominator realm, there was still a difference in cultivation base. Third stage dominator was clearly stronger than second stage dominator. However, as to how much stronger they were and how many stages the dominator realm was divided into, Long Yu couldn't ask right now. In such a tense situation, Long Yu was constantly thinking if there was any way he could resolve this stalemate. Naturally, the direction of his thinking was related to the Book of Shadows. Turning into nothingness was the only thing he could rely on in the face of Sovereign. Even if he had the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda, which had been fully repaired, it would be useless. After all, the gap between their cultivation bases was just too big. Even if he took out the ancient dragon skeleton tower, his opponent could still kill Long Yu in a single move. The only thing he could use was the Book of Shadows. Fortunately, everyone was still in good condition. At the very least, they were not in mortal danger. With Red Oriole's tyrannical strength after breaking through to the sovereign realm, they were able to block the attack of the Ice God expert in the form of pentagonal ice crystals. Fortunately, the strength of the Blood Demon Clan princess has surprised us. The situation has stabilized for now. A great sovereign beast cultivator let out a long sigh of relief. Overall, it's not too optimistic. Let's see how the Ice God Clan great sovereigns will react. Dao Qing said solemnly, carefully observing the movements of the 40 Ice God Clan great sovereigns. Just as he finished speaking, 2 other tyrannical existences immediately appeared from the group of 40 Ice God Clan great sovereigns. On one of the ice crystal edges of the Ice God Clan's great sovereign in front, there was a long ice crystal horn that looked like a bull's horn. From that long ice crystal horn, a burst of threatening cold air suddenly erupted. The long-horned Ice God Clan great sovereign made his move. His target was Red Oriole, who had just broken through to the sovereign realm. The other Ice God Clan great sovereign expert didn't look special on the surface. It was just that his body was especially huge, almost twice the size of the other Ice God Clan great sovereigns. The giant Ice God Clan great sovereign appeared, and the chill once again swept across the battlefield, shrouding the entire void in a fierce cold current. Together with the pentagonal Ice God Clan great sovereign, the 3 super expert from the Ice God Clan joined forces. From the aura they emitted, it was actually 3 powerful existences in the third stage great sovereign realm. Oh no, there are 3 such experts from the Ice God Clan. Dao Qing, Tian Song, Hai Shu, and the others' faces instantly changed. No one had expected that the 3 Ice God Clan great sovereigns were all in the third stage great sovereign realm. This undoubtedly meant that the difficulty of escaping from the hands of so many Ice God Clan great sovereigns had increased by more than tenfold. Long Yu's face also changed, but he had more confidence in Red Oriole than the others. He knew that Red Oriole had stepped into the great sovereign realm, and her combat strength was definitely much stronger than ordinary great sovereigns. Furthermore, Red Oriole definitely had an even stronger trump card that she hadn't used yet. It was most likely a divine grade absolute beginning. Now, that Long Yu and Red Oriole's relationship was not ordinary. He naturally knew that Red Oriole had a divine grade absolute beginning. However, he had never seen her use a divine grade absolute beginning before, so he didn't know what it was. If the situation was really that bad, he believed that Red Oriole would definitely use the absolute beginning divine grade. At that time, 3/3 stage Great Sovereign Realm, Ice God Clan, Great Sovereign Realm experts wouldn't be a problem. However, Long Yu didn't relax. From the series of fierce battles just now, he could tell that the Ice God Clan Great Sovereign Realm was very well prepared. They definitely wouldn't give them any chance to escape and send the fierce fire talismans to the front line. Therefore, even if Red Oriole had the absolute beginning divine grade, what about the other party? The absolute beginning divine grade wasn't exclusive to the demon race and the human race. The absolute beginning 5 elements power was the most basic power in the universe. The absolute beginning divine grade that was born from it could appear in any corner of the universe. Including Long Yu, there were a total of 13 experts from the human race and the demon race. Currently, 6 or 7 of them had taken out the absolute beginning divine grade. In that case, the Ice God Clan had a total of 40 great sovereigns. How many of them had the absolute beginning divine grade? Just as Long Yu expected, it was impossible for Red Oriole to face 3/3 stage Great Sovereign Realm Ice God Clan Great Sovereign Realm experts at the same time without relying on the absolute beginning divine grade. The long-horned Ice God Clan Great Sovereign roared angrily. The power of the extreme cold divine characters arrived in an instant. Like a frozen sword chi, it slashed towards the void where Red Oriole was. The extreme cold divine characters completely froze the entire void. Apart from the extreme cold divine characters, all other forces and substances were instantly annihilated. The giant Ice God Clan Great Sovereign's body suddenly expanded. His entire body turned into the size of a small mountain. He forcibly pressed down on Red Oriole, who was sealed in ice by the long-horned Ice God Clan Great Sovereign. He wanted to crush Red Oriole into pieces with his physical body alone. Demon Blood 6 Wings. The void around Red Oriole was sealed in ice by the long-horned Ice God Clan Great Sovereign. However, she didn't just sit and wait for death. In the next moment, 8 wings instantly spread out from her back. 2 of the blood red wings were the pair of wings that she had when she was a member of the Blood Demon Clan. The other 3 pairs of wings, 6 in total, were the divine quality wings of the absolute beginning era that she had been born with. As soon as the Demon Blood 6 wings appeared, a strong murderous aura spread out in all directions. In an instant, it condensed into 3 blood waves. The blood color divine characters rolled like a huge wave, completely breaking the long-horned Ice God Clan Great Sovereign's ice sealing technique. The giant Ice God Clan Great Sovereign that was crushing down from above was blocked by a frightening blood-colored light barrier condensed by the Demon Blood 6 wings. The Great Sovereign's huge body stopped a few meters above Red Oriole's head, unable to descend any further. This Blood Demon Princess is so powerful. She has clearly just stepped into the Great Sovereign Realm. She's just a first-stage Great Sovereign, but she can actually fight against 3/3 stage Great Sovereign Realm Ice God Clan experts with all her strength. Everyone present was shocked when they saw this scene. Even if it was because she had finally used the absolute beginning divine grade, the ability to fight above her level was absolutely not something that ordinary people could have, even if she had the absolute beginning divine grade. Chapter 12:10. Everyone present, including the opposing ice gods, were guessing which level Red Oriole had awakened her divine grade absolute beginning combat armor to. Even Long Yu didn't know what level Red Oriole had awakened. He had heard that a divine grade absolute beginning combat armor could reach up to 12 levels. As long as it reached the 5th level, the divine grade absolute beginning combat armor's power would reach the level of a supreme unbounded combat armor. Red Oriole also had a supreme unbounded combat armor, the Thunderfire Crimson Saber. However, she had used the divine grade absolute beginning combat armor, the 6 Demon Blood Wings, instead of the supreme unbounded combat armor, the Thunderfire Crimson Saber. Therefore, to Red Oriole, the 6 Demon Blood Wings was definitely stronger than the Thunderfire Crimson Saber. Otherwise, she wouldn't have used the divine grade absolute beginning combat armor at the last moment. Red Oriole must have awakened her divine grade absolute beginning combat armor to at least the 5th level. As for which level, I don't know. Let's hope she can withstand the combined attack of the 3 third-stage Great Sovereigns. Everyone was praying in their hearts. The 6 Demon Blood Wings' bloody and murderous aura instantly sent the long-horned ice god Great Sovereign flying. Even though Red Oriole was only a first-stage Great Sovereign, she was still able to use the divine grade absolute beginning combat armor to repel the 3rd-stage Great Sovereign. However, the long-horned Ice God clan's Great Sovereign was finally enraged. The Ice God clan's powerhouse had casually tried to suppress Red Oriole, but he didn't expect that his attack would be defeated by Red Oriole. That was why she was enraged at this moment. The power of the extremely cold divine characters instantly erupted from her body, and the ice crystal horn on her head instantly erupted with a terrifying wave of ice. In an instant, it pierced through the endless void, and in the next moment, it froze beside Red Oriole. Divine grade absolute beginning combat armor. Everyone present, including Long Yu, Dao Qing, and the others, were shocked. As expected, even though they had many divine grade absolute beginning combat armor, there were definitely more divine grade absolute beginning combat armor among the 40 Ice God Great Sovereigns. Just the terrifying power of a long-horned Ice God Great Sovereign alone was enough to completely suppress Red Oriole's aura on the surface. Without any suspense, the 6 Demon Blood Wings on Red Oriole's back were instantly frozen. This long-horned ice god race's great ruler's divine grade absolute beginning technique was the horn on his ice crystal. Furthermore, he had definitely awakened it to the 5th level or above. In terms of power, it was actually suppressing Red Oriole's 6 demonic blood wings. On the other side, when Red Oriole's 6 demon blood wings were sealed, the ice armor of the ice god, the great absolute beginning combat armor that was originally blocked by the blood-colored barrier. The ice god Ice Great Emperor instantly lost all soul, and the god Great Sovereign. Oriole, Dao Qing, and the others couldn't help but cry out in alarm. The situation was simply too dire. They hadn't expected Red Oriole, who originally had a slight advantage, to be unable to hold on just because her opponent had unleashed the power of a divine absolute beginning rank. Only Long Yu stood in place, not worried at all. He was sure that Red Oriole could still fight, so there was no need to worry about her. As Long Yu expected, when the Ice God Great Emperor came crashing down on her, the 6 demon blood wings on Red Oriole's back emitted a blood-red light. The moment the light appeared, a bloody and murderous aura instantly lifted the ice in the surroundings. 6 demon blood wings, divine grade absolute beginning combat armor of the 6th level. The blood-red light instantly filled the entire void, and at this moment, it turned into an extremely sharp saber light, slashing toward the giant ice god Great Dominator. The ice god Great Emperor didn't expect this scene at all. Originally, he thought that Red Oriole had been sealed in ice by her companions, so he could easily shatter the ice. However, he didn't expect Red Oriole to be sealed in ice on purpose just now, in order to attract him, and in a situation where he was the least vigilant. The ice god Great Emperor's entire body was shrouded in the blood-red blade light. The scarlet color stained his entire body, and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. At this moment of decisive killing intent, the ice god, Great Emperor, reacted extremely quickly. An ice glyph appeared behind him, which was actually his divine grade absolute beginning combat armor. When this ice glyph appeared, it immediately swept out waves of the power of ice divine runes, condensing into waves of extremely cold storms that fought against the attack of Red Oriole's 6 demon bloodwings. However, the ice god Great Emperor still underestimated Red Oriole. Red Oriole's divine grade absolute beginning combat armor, 6 demon bloodwings, had awakened more than the 6th level. In the depths of the layers of blood-red blade light, there was a trace of invisible bloodline. This trace of bloodline was the real killer move hidden in the dark. As the bloodline fluttered, it immediately invaded the ice glyph of the ice god Great Emperor's divine grade absolute beginning combat armor. The next moment, the terrifying power contained in the bloodlines completely exploded, and the endless killing and destruction power eroded the huge body of the ice god clan's great ruler, causing cracks to appear on the surface of his body. This was the terrifying move that Red Oriole had used. It was a move that belonged to the 7th awakening of her 6 wings of demonic blood of the absolute beginning realm. It was hidden in the blood-colored saber light of the 6th awakening, making it impossible to guard against. Even the giant ice god clan's great sovereign, who was extremely vigilant, was hit in an instant. Cracks appeared on his entire body of ice, and icy liquid flowed out of them. This icy liquid carried a part of the Ice God clan's great dominator's power, which was similar to the blood of the human clan and the demon clan. For the Ice God clan, this icy liquid was necessary to maintain their lives. If they lost too much, they would undoubtedly die. She had severely injured the Ice God Great Emperor with one move, which greatly boosted his prestige. Dao Qing and the others were delighted. But in the next moment, the Ice God clan's great ruler, who was in the form of pentagonal ice crystal, suddenly made a move. An ice crescent descended from the sky. Just like the ice crescent that had pulled everyone into the extreme cold illusion, it erupted with an unparalleled cold aura and eroded Red Oriole's body. Red Oriole wanted to kill the Ice God Great Emperor in one go, but the other side was outnumbered. Just as she was about to make a move, she suffered a sneak attack from the pentagonal, ice, crystal, Ice God Great Emperor. Her whole body was shrouded in ice divine characters, and she almost fell into the illusion. "Explode, shatter!" Red Oriole shouted. The blood-colored wings and the 6 wings of monster blood on her back, a total of 4 pairs of wings, suddenly extended to their greatest extent. The blood-colored wings turned into 2 blood-colored lines that cut in all directions with infinite sharpness. Her 6 wings of monster blood, the 6 wings of monster blood, turned into 6 blood-colored whips at this moment. The blood-colored whips were so fast that it was difficult to detect them with a naked eye and spiritual sense. 6 wings of monster blood. 8th layer kill. Red Oriole's eyes were bloodshot. At this time, she had to go all out. She didn't want to die here when she had just stepped into the Great Emperor realm. No matter what, she had to ensure that she and Long Yu could survive. As she completely erupted with the 6 wings of monster blood, the power of the 6 wings of monster blood surged out, and the 6 blood-colored whips wrapped around the injured Ice God Great Emperor. Then, the 6 blood-colored whips exerted force at the same time, cutting the Ice God Great Emperor's huge body into countless ice fragments. Enveloped by the blood-colored light, the Ice God Great Emperor's body exploded. The ice crystals were the same color as the blood-colored light, and became the Ice God Great Emperor's final song. A super expert at the 3rd stage Great Emperor realm, an Ice God Great Emperor who possessed the Ice Talisman Steel and the divine grade absolute beginning realm, was unexpectedly killed by Red Oriole in a single move. However, at this moment, Red Oriole was withstanding the attack of the pentagonal ice crystal Ice God Great Emperor in order to kill the Ice God Great Emperor. Cold currents covered Red Oriole from head to toe, and the 4 pairs of wings on her back gradually froze. Although she had unleashed 80% of the awakened divine grade of absolute beginning and killed the giant ice god clan's great dominator, her opponent had succeeded in sealing her in layers of ice currents. Is the 8th level of the divine grade absolute beginning realm her limit? Dao Qing, Tian Song, Hai Shu, and the others all felt their hearts skip a beat. They couldn't have higher expectations for Red Oriole. This was because they knew how difficult it was to awaken a divine grade absolute beginning treasure. They had already witnessed the terror of an 8th level absolute beginning treasure awakening. It allowed Red Oriole to skip 2 levels and kill a 3rd stage dominator from the Ice God race. However, the divine grade absolute beginning realm with the 8th level of the divine grade absolute beginning realm was very rare. It was impossible for Red Oriole to reach the 9th level of the divine grade absolute beginning realm at her current age. Even the oldest and burly man, Dao Qing, had only awakened the divine grade absolute beginning realm to the 6th level. It was already a long way off for him to reach the 8th level, let alone the 9th level. Therefore, no one expected Red Oriole to reach the 9th level of the divine grade absolute beginning realm. Although her divine grade absolute beginning realm and demon blood 6 wings were powerful, she had just stepped into the great sovereign realm. The gap between her and the Ice God Great Emperor Realm expert was too big. It was already very difficult for her to rely on her high-level divine grade absolute beginning realm to kill the opponent. It was unrealistic to hope for anything else. It was also at this time that Long Yu knew he had to do something. Captain, take out the mission items. We can't care about the escort mission anymore. We have to save ourselves. The only way is to use the fierce fire talismans we are escorting. Chapter 12:11. As soon as Long Yu spoke these words, the expressions of the others in the surroundings instantly changed. Using the fierce fire talisman, which they were escorting this time, thinking about it carefully, this was indeed the last option. The fierce fire talisman had a strong suppressive effect on the Ice God clan. It was equivalent to a fire attribute weapon, and anyone could use it. However, the more compatible the cultivator was with the fire attribute divine runes, the more they could unleash the power of the fierce fire talisman. If the Firebird Sovereign used the fierce fire talisman, she would be a much greater threat to the Ice God clan than Red Oriole. In addition, there were so many sovereigns present. If all of them used the fierce fire talisman, their overall strength would definitely increase by a large margin. To put it simply, if they used the fierce fire talisman, they might really be able to fight against the 40 Ice God sovereigns. As long as there weren't too many experts like the long-horned Ice God sovereigns or the 5-edged Ice Crystal sovereign, there wouldn't be any problems. But the problem was, I also want us to use the fierce fire talisman. After all, our lives are in danger. If we all die, the fierce fire talisman will fall into the hands of the Ice God clan anyway. It's better to use it to kill the enemy. Dao Qing bitterly smiled. It's just that we, as escorts, can't take out the items we're escorting, let alone use them against the enemy. This has always been a hard and fast rule, and no one can break it. I've already checked the storage ring with the fierce fire talisman, and there's a powerful seal on it, so I can't break it. Yes, if we could use the escorting items, we would have used the fierce fire talisman long ago. Unfortunately, we can't. Off to the side, the Firebird Hegemon let out a resigned chuckle. They weren't having an easy time either, because Red Oriole was fighting against the 3 Ice God Hegemons while the other Ice God experts were still attempting to form the absolute Icebound formation. Right now, the Firebird Sovereign, Dao Qing, Tian Song, and Hai Shu were using the absolute ice formation to resist the spread of the absolute ice formation. They were able to resist it for now, but in another incense Styx time, they probably wouldn't be able to. On top of that, the Purple Sky Wolf Demon Cultivator was also constantly unleashing a Grade 1 God Array, while the Tiansha Demon Cultivator and the Black Water Dragon Demon Cultivator were constantly unleashing Black Lightning mixed with Divine Text. The two of them were also playing an important role in the process of resisting the absolute ice ceiling formation. As for the other people present, they weren't as powerful, including the handsome young man from the divine wood monsters clan. They were just like bystanders. Although Han Hen and the others were also great sovereign realm experts, they were much weaker than Dao Qing and Red Oriole, especially when they were fighting against 40 great sovereign realm experts from the Ice God clan. The gap between Han Hen and the other great sovereign realm experts was obvious. Dao Qing, Tian Tsang, Hai, and the Dragon Divine Firebird Sovereign and the Firebird Divine could easily fighting against 3 to 5 God Kings. As for Han Hen, he could barely fight against 2 God Kings at the same time. He couldn't defeat them. This was the difference between a first-grade Great Sovereign and a second-grade Great Sovereign. Of course, there were other aspects such as the absolute ice formation, the divine characters, and so on. However, even though they couldn't do much, they still had to do their best to resist the spread of the absolute ice formation. Only Long Yu seemed to have nothing to do and was quite relaxed. Senior Dao Qing, why don't you try again and see if you can open that storage ring? Hearing Dao Qing's words, Long Yu raised his eyebrows and continued. He had a speculation in his mind. This batch of fierce fire symbols was the key to the battle against the Ice God clan. It was impossible for the army on the battlefield to not know the Ice God clan's reaction. Therefore, if the army on the battlefield knew that there would be 40 Ice God clan rulers intercepting this batch of fierce fire symbols, how could they only send a few people to escort it? There must be something wrong. Logically speaking, it was impossible for such an important strategic resource to be escorted by outsiders. It was most likely to be escorted by the powerful members of the army on the battlefield. It was impossible for just a dozen or so people to deliver the fierce fire symbols to the front line. This speculation was very reasonable. If this was the case, then Long Yu had reason to believe that the dozen people on the battlefield were just bait to attract the attention of the Ice God clan. Since we were just bait, the real large batch of fierce fire symbols can't be carried by Dao Qing. They must have been sent to the front line of the battlefield secretly through other channels. Long Yu thought to himself. The most important thing was that if the army on the battlefield had really asked them to escort the fierce fire symbols, it was impossible that no one had come to help after such a long battle. Although the communication in the void had been blocked by the Ice God clan experts, the army on the battlefield must have guessed that something had gone wrong in this situation. Since Long Yu had such a speculation, what they should do next was obvious. After listening to Long Yu's words, Dao Qing took out the storage ring given to him by the army on the battlefield before they set off. He was sure that there was a seal in the storage ring at that time, so they couldn't open it. However, when he took out the storage ring, he was surprised to find that the seal on the storage ring had disappeared without him noticing. What's going on? Dao Qing was not stupid. Those who could cultivate to this level were definitely not stupid. Therefore, he was only a little surprised, but he immediately thought of many things that Long Yu had thought of before. Obviously, the army on the battlefield used their small team as bait to attract the experts of the Ice God clan. The real large batch of fierce fire symbols might have already been sent to the front line of the battlefield of the alien race through other channels. Dao Qing explored the storage ring with his divine thoughts and found that there were 15 fierce fire symbols in it. He was overjoyed and completely understood the idea of the army on the battlefield. Obviously, although the army on the battlefield used them as bait, they definitely didn't want them to die in vain. Therefore, they prepared 15 fierce fire symbols for them, so that they could have the strength to fight against the experts of the Ice God clan. The seal on the storage ring must have been a time seal. As time passed, the seal gradually weakened until it completely disappeared, so that they could take out the fierce fire symbols. There were only 15 fierce fire symbols in total, and they were specially prepared for Dao Qing and his team. As soon as he saw the 15 fierce fire symbols in the storage ring, Dao Qing immediately figured out all the key points. The real large batch of fierce fire symbols must have been sent to other places. In that case, we don't need to be afraid. Brothers, let's get rid of all these ice cubes. Dao Qing didn't waste any time. She immediately distributed the fierce flame talismans from her storage ring. First, she gave one talisman to each of them. Then, she gave an extra talisman to the Firebird Sovereign, who was proficient in fire-type divine glyphs, as well as to the other Sovereign, who had mastered fire-type divine glyphs. Anyway, there were only 13 people in total, and they had prepared 15 fierce fire symbols in the beginning. 2 extra fierce fire symbols could greatly enhance the strength of the beast cultivator who was proficient in the fire attribute divine text. Sure enough, Long Yu also received a fierce fire symbol. Although it was useless, it was better than nothing. In critical times of danger, he could use it to resist the great ruler of the Ice God clan. Although his martial arts realm was relatively low, the fierce fire symbol itself had a very strong power of the fire attribute divine text. Even if Long Yu didn't use it to increase its power, it was still very powerful. It was absolutely no problem to resist a few attacks from the great ruler of the Ice God clan. And this also confirmed Long Yu's speculation in his heart. This group of people was indeed just a bait set up by the Battlefield Legion to attract the Ice God clan powerhouses. However, he wouldn't blame the Battlefield Legion, because if he were in the senior management of the Battlefield Legion, he would also want to make the same decision and let some people attract the firepower, so that the real large number of fierce fire symbols could be successfully sent to the front line. Break for me. After getting 2 fierce fire symbols, the Firebird Great Ruler didn't stop at all. She directly rushed towards Red Oriole and burst out a terrifying attack of the fire attribute divine text at the ice crescent moon above her head. The Firebird Great Ruler grabbed the fierce fire symbol with its claws, and the endless power of the fire attribute divine text burst out from it. With the Firebird Great Ruler's 8th level compatibility with the fire attribute divine text, its power was amplified a lot again. Originally, it was a little difficult for the Firebird Great Ruler to deal with the pentagonal Ice Crystal Great Ruler, but now that she got 2 fierce fire symbols, she could directly confront the Ice Crystal Great Ruler head-on, and even easily defeat the Ice Crystal Great Ruler and suppress the Ice Crystal Great Ruler. It was the same for the others. Each of them had obtained a fierce fire talisman, and they immediately launched fierce attacks at the Ice God clan's great sovereigns. The void was immediately enveloped by the flame divine characters. The icy aura became weaker and weaker, while the flame divine characters became stronger and stronger. The area of the absolute ice ceiling formation was constantly being dispersed, and the damage was getting more and more serious. After 2 or 3 Ice God clan sovereigns were killed by the power of the fierce fire talisman, the entire absolute ice ceiling formation finally collapsed completely. Chapter 12:12. For Red Oriole, although she hadn't reached a very high level of compatibility with the fire attribute divine runes, she was at least at the 5th level, which was similar to Long Yu's level. In addition, she had already stepped into the martial path of a great ruler. Her basic strength was very strong, and the power of the fierce fire rune was already extraordinary. Even without the fierce flame talisman, Red Oriole was able to face 3 Ice God clan's 3rd phase great dominators by herself and even kill one of them. Now that she had the fierce flame talisman, Red Oriole was practically a god in front of the Ice God clan's members. Because the 5-edged Ice Crystal Great Ruler and the Longhorn Great Ruler were surrounded by Dao Qing and the others, Red Oriole didn't join in the fight. Instead, she flew to another place and continuously used the power of the fierce fire rune to attack the other Ice God race rulers. What surprised everyone was that apart from the 3 third phase great rulers, there were many second phase great rulers among the group of 40 Ice God race rulers. Although they couldn't compare to the 3 third phase great rulers, they had the advantage in numbers. Although Red Oriole and the others had taken down a city first and killed 4 of the enemy great rulers, the enemy's overall number was still very high. On average, Red Oriole and the others had to deal with 3 or 4 Ice God race rulers each. Red Oriole didn't feel any pressure, but the others were different. Even with the help of the fierce fire rune, most of them could only barely resist the enemy's attacks and couldn't increase their advantage. Thus, the key lay in Red Oriole's group of strongest combatants. It all depended on whether or not they could defeat the enemy's powerhouses as quickly as possible. Only then would they be able to assist the others. Until then, the others could only barely protect themselves. They did not wish to contribute to the battle, but rather to preserve their lives. However, the battle didn't last as long as everyone thought it would. Clearly, when everyone obtained the fierce fire rune, the overall situation of the battle began to turn. The Ice God race rulers weren't idiots, and they naturally guessed something. They could easily tell that this small group of demons was just bait. The real fierce fire talismans were not on these people at all, but what had attracted them here was just bait. Since that was the case, why would they need to spend so much effort on Long Yu and the others? There was no point at all. Just like Long Yu and the others, Dao Qing, as the leader, had led everyone to accept a mission from the army on the battlefield. After completing the mission, they would be rewarded handsomely. It was the same for the Ice God clan's great rulers. They had been ordered by the higher-ups of the Ice God clan to move out. The content of the order was naturally to intercept the fierce fire symbols, not to kill Long Yu and the others. Now, the Ice God race understood that they had picked the wrong target. They wouldn't be able to complete the mission no matter what. If that was true, why would they stay and risk their lives? With this thought in mind, there was no need for the battle to continue. The five-edged Ice Crystal Great Ruler and the long-horned Ice God Great Ruler, the two strongest Ice Gods, were the first to retreat. They wanted to take the giant Ice God's corpse with them. After all, it had a godly absolute beginning treasure, the Frost Talisman Steel. However, how could the others let them do as they wished? If they were delayed for too long, the Ice God race wouldn't even be able to leave. This place was close to the Beast race's territory. It was risky for them to come here and launch an attack. If they were delayed for too long, the Ice Gods wouldn't even be able to leave. This place was close to the territory of the Demon Clan. The Ice Gods were already taking a great risk by coming here to launch an attack. Now that the situation was hopeless, it was impossible for them to waste time here. Seeing that they couldn't take away the Ice God race's fire rune, the Ice God race's fire rune, and the Ice God race's fire rune turned around and retreated without any hesitation. At the same time, the other Ice God race's fire rune caught up with the two strongest Ice God race's fire rune and tried to leave the void by activating the space rune. Everyone liked to beat a dog when it was down. Han Hen from the Godlywood monster race was the most eye-catching. When the other Ice God race's fire rune retreated, Han Hen held the fire rune and attacked one of the Ice God race's fire rune. He wanted to kill that Ice God race's fire rune. Unfortunately, the Ice God race's fire rune was like a turtle. A thick ice shield appeared behind him. Although the Ice God race's fire rune kept melting, it wasn't penetrated by the fire rune. Soon, a large group of Ice God race's fire rune disappeared from everyone's sight. Since the Ice God race's fire rune wanted to retreat, Dao Qing, Red Oriole, and the others couldn't kill more Ice God race's fire rune. You ran. If you didn't run, I'll show you how powerful I am. Han Hen snorted coldly. He remembered that he was ambushed by the three Ice God race's fire runes, which caused him to be frozen unconscious. Long Yu had contributed to their victory. He was filled with hatred for the Ice God race. Moreover, he didn't have a good impression of the Ice God race in the first place. Long Yu glanced at this brat. Throughout the entire battle, this Han Hen did not do anything decent at all, of course. Long Yu didn't think that he had contributed anything to the battle. The only thing he did was remind Dao Qing to check the storage ring that had been escorted. He wanted to confirm his guess. In fact, even if Long Yu hadn't reminded her, Dao Qing would have checked it herself later. After all, if the situation was desperate, no one would give up even if there was only a sliver of hope. However, when Red Oriole killed the giant Ice God race's fire rune, she was frozen by the pentagonal Ice Crystal rune. If Long Yu hadn't asked everyone to use the fierce fire rune, Red Oriole's life would have been in danger. Although it was shocking that Red Oriole had awakened 8 levels of the 6 demon bloodwings, Red Oriole had just become a great sovereign. She was only a first-stage sovereign. It was impossible for her to fight against so many Ice God race powerhouses at the same time. Most importantly, the Ice God race powerhouses each had their own powerful techniques. Even in the end, they weren't able to kill any of the remaining Ice God race's fire runes. It was clear that the Ice God race's fire runes were extremely powerful. They had killed 3 of the Ice God race's fire runes, while Red Oriole had risked her life to kill a giant Ice God race's fire rune. If they were to continue fighting, it would be hard to say who would win without external factors. After all, the 2 sides had more than twice the number of people. It was a gap that the fierce fire runes couldn't make up for. Fortunately, now that the Ice God race's enemies had retreated, Long Yu, Dao Qing, and the others could catch their breaths and think about their next move. "How are you? Are you okay?" After the other side retreated, Long Yu went to find Red Oriole and asked her with concern, "Do I look like I'm not okay?" Red Oriole held up Long Yu's face and kissed him. "Don't worry. Big Sister just stepped into the Great Ruler Realm, and the situation is very good. It's just that I used the Blood Realm's illusory world innate ability, which caused the situation of the innate divine ability fruit to worsen a little. Before you recover completely, don't use the Blood Realm Illusion Realm if you can avoid it." Long Yu shook his head and said helplessly, "We didn't have time to worry about that. If I didn't use the Blood Realm Illusion Realm, all of you would have fallen into the enemy's extreme cold illusion. The consequences would be unpredictable. If 1 or 2 of you died, it would be really troublesome." Red Oriole sighed. That was true. For Red Oriole, she had no other choice. The extreme cold illusion realm used by the pentagonal ice crystal great ruler was an extremely powerful illusion technique. She wasn't confident that she could break it with other methods, so she had to use the Blood Realm Illusion Realm. If 1 or 2 of them died, the situation would be completely different. At the beginning of the confrontation, they would fall into a great disadvantage and be passive. They might even die there. After all, from the beginning of the battle until the end, everyone was fighting against the absolute ice ceiling formation. If 1 or 2 of them died, they might not be able to stop it. It would be a nightmare for everyone. Fortunately, it's fine now. The mission should be considered completed. Although we used the 15 fierce fire runes, we were just bait. It's a success that none of us died. Long Yu nodded and said to Red Oriole, then told her to rest. Then, everyone gathered together and began to discuss the next step. Dao Qing thought for a while and said, "First of all, since the Ice God clan retreated, they won't bother us anymore. They also know that we're just a batch of bait released by the Monster Clan. They won't have any thoughts about the bait. Second, our mission should be considered completed. Remember that the mission's goal was to ensure that a large number of fierce fire runes reached the front line of the battlefield. Although we were just bait, we played a role in restraining them. In other aspects, the fierce fire runes should have reached the destination. Since the enemies here have retreated, let's hurry to the front line to confirm it." Dao Qing's words were unanimously agreed by everyone. There was nothing much to say next. Rushing to the army base to report the situation and confirm the mission's results was the most important thing. Of course, everyone hoped that the batch of fierce fire runes could reach the front line as soon as possible. That way, they could defeat the Ice God clan army as soon as possible. But in this mission, none of us died. I have to thank someone. Dao Qing glanced at Long Yu and smiled. At the crucial moment, Brother Long Yu reminded me to check the storage ring. It seems that Brother Long Yu thought faster than us. You were all fighting, and I had nothing to do. Of course, I could only use my brain. Chapter 12-13. All in all, the first wave of crisis that Long Yu, Red Oriole, and the others encountered had passed, and according to the speculation, the Ice God clan would not launch a second attack on them. Therefore, their mission could be said to be more than half completed. What they needed to do now was to find the base of the Battlefield Legion on the front line. Although the location of the Battlefield Legion on the front line was not fixed, it was not very difficult to find it. After all, the base of the battlefield legion on the front line was too conspicuous. This kind of mobile base was called a battlefield fortress. Not only was it extremely large, but it was also surrounded by many other small buildings, forming a mobile building complex that covered an extremely large area. On the battlefield of the alien race, it was too difficult to defend a fixed fortress, because if a fortress was fixed in one place, then the enemy could directly come to attack it, and they could launch an attack at any time. It was extremely dangerous. However, if it was a battlefield fortress that could move, then it would be different. If it encountered a sneak attack and really could not resist, it could be controlled to retreat and then recuperate in some hidden place or in the rear near the territory of the demon clan, so as to preserve its combat ability to the greatest extent. When launching an attack, it would also save a lot of time, and it would give the experts of the demon clan a logistics-based fortress, which would be a great advantage in the battle on the front line. Not only the demon clan, but other races such as the human clan, the ice god clan, and the fire god clan also had similar buildings like this mobile battlefield fortress. On the battlefield of the alien race, the battlefield fortress was the basic building, and a battlefield fortress and the surrounding defensive buildings formed a unit. Currently, there were 3 outer galaxies near the battlefield of the demon clan and the alien race, and there were more than 30 battlefield fortresses in total, which were guarding different lines of defense. Each battlefield fortress had an extremely terrifying combat ability. Simply put, the overall combat ability of a battlefield fortress and its surrounding defensive buildings could even be compared to a super expert in the demigod realm. Moreover, this kind of mobile battlefield fortress could also be united at the critical moment. The cooperation of 2 battlefield fortresses basically represented an indestructible line of defense. Currently, on the battlefield of the alien race near the demon clan, there were mainly 4 battlefield fortresses, 2 of which had joined forces to defend outside the territory of the demon clan. 2 of them were defending against the invasion of the ice god clan, and the other 2 were defending against the attack of the fire god clan on the other side of the 3rd outer domain galaxy. In recent years, the conflicts in the 3rd extraterritorial galaxy were mainly between the ice god clan and the fire god clan. Fortunately, the ice god clan and the fire god clan were enemies, so they did not join hands to attack the demon clan. Otherwise, the situation would have been much worse, and they would have had to pay a heavy price to defend against their attacks. Usually, the 2 battlefield fortresses were enough to block the frontal attacks from the ice god clan or the fire god clan, while the other battlefield fortresses were scattered in every corner of the 3rd outer domain galaxy to protect the demon clan's territory and ensure that no experts from other clans would sneak into the demon clan's territory. Occasionally, foreign clans with strong concealment skills would sneak into the demon clan's territory, but they would not pose much of a threat. They would only be able to gather some information. Now, the goal of Long Yu and the others was to find the 2 battle fortresses that had joined forces and were attacking the Ice God clan head-on. From there, they could see whether a large number of fierce fire symbols had already been delivered to the front line. If that was the case, then their mission would be successfully completed. At the same time, the good days of the invading Ice God clan would also come to an end. After a short rest, everyone decided to move forward. Because the power aura of the battlefield fortresses was very strong, ordinary great sovereigns could faintly sense it from 100 million miles away. Of course, this would also expose the aura of the battlefield fortresses, but if they wanted to hide it, they could set up an aura concealing formation on the battlefield fortresses. However, there was no need to activate such a concealing formation during normal battles, because it would waste a lot of unnecessary energy. The battlefield of the foreign clans was full of danger. Although they guessed that the Ice God clan would not launch a second attack, Dao Qing and the others were still very careful as they moved forward. Long Yu and Red Oriole were together, and they noticed that the handsome young man from the divine with demonic race, Han Hen, was still observing them. This kid, I don't know how I offended him, but his character is really bad. Long Yu didn't know what to do with this guy, so he shook his head and sighed to Red Oriole. In any case, Han Hen was his current teammate. so Long Yu wouldn't go too far. If Han Hen really wanted to do something to Long Yu, and if Long Yu's safety was threatened, Red Oriole definitely wouldn't sit back and watch. The current Red Oriole was different from before. In other words, even if she hadn't broken through, she wouldn't be afraid of Han Hen in a head-on confrontation. Therefore, under normal circumstances, Han Hen still wasn't a threat to Long Yu, so Long Yu couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. However, in some special dangerous situations, Han Hen was still a ticking time bomb. In the past, Long Yu had encountered many teammates who turned against him when danger approached. He had seen many despicable people like Han Hen, so he wasn't afraid of them. After about 4 hours, Red Oriole was the first to sense a strange aura in front of them. After all, she was a great ruler, and she had also cultivated the 3rd level of secret martial arts technique. Her spiritual sense and perception were much stronger than other great rulers. The battlefield fortresses should be arriving soon. When 2 battlefield fortresses are gathered together, their auras can be transmitted to a distance of 1 billion kilometers. However, I've used a secret martial arts technique to increase my spiritual sense perception by several times, so the battlefield fortress's true location is likely to be billions of kilometers away. This distance is already very close. Red Oriole explained her discovery to the others. The others nodded. If they used spatial divine runes to teleport a distance of billions of kilometers, they would only need the time it took for an incense stick to burn to arrive. However, that wasn't safe. The main reason was that there were dangers everywhere on the alien battlefield. If they used spatial divine runes to teleport away, they would be surrounded by alien races when they reappeared. That would be tragic. Therefore, the safest method was to fly over directly. Although it would take a lot more time, it was the best guarantee of safety. Moreover, flying wouldn't be very slow. A distance of billions of kilometers could be covered in a few hours. Most importantly, they had already entered the detection range of the battlefield fortresses. Therefore, there's basically no need to worry about their safety in this area. They could sense the aura of the battlefield fortresses. Therefore, the battlefield fortresses would definitely be aware of their movements. If any alien race experts appeared here, the battlefield fortresses would be able to send reinforcements immediately. Within 100 million kilometers of the battlefield fortresses, any expert in the battlefield fortresses could be teleported to any place within range. This kind of tyrannical support method was the fundamental defense of the battlefield fortresses. With this kind of rapid support method, it was almost impossible for the battlefield fortresses to fall as long as a large number of enemies did not appear. Therefore, when they arrived within the detection range of the battlefield fortresses, the safety of Long Yu and the others was guaranteed to the greatest extent. When they continued to move forward until they entered the defensive range of the battlefield fortresses, a group of demon race cultivators appeared in front of them. They were only at the Emperor level, and there were a total of about 10 of them. However, this group of demon race cultivators had an extremely bloody aura. Obviously, they had experienced extremely tragic killings. These were iron-blooded experts who had experienced on the battlefield of the alien races. Although they were only at the Emperor level, Long Yu subconsciously felt that if he were to fight them one-on-one, even his life might be in danger. This was because the other party had a strong, killing intent. The only purpose of fighting was to kill the enemy. They did not care about the consequences when they fought, and they had rich combat experience. It was not easy to cultivate such true members of the battlefield army. However, once they grew up, as long as they stepped into the ranks of the Emperor level, they could become the trump card of the battlefield army. Soon, the group of 10 Emperor-level demon race cultivators arrived in front of Long Yu and the others. They then bowed to Long Yu and the others. They were quite respectful to everyone. "Welcome to the battle cruiser Fortress. Report your name, identity, and the purpose of your visit." Even in the face of Dao Qing and the other sovereigns, these Emperor-level demon race cultivators were not very afraid. Instead, they were very professional. Although they were respectful, they still asked some basic questions. Obviously, The other party did not know that their group would come. It seemed that the mission of the Fierce Fire Talisman was kept a relatively tight secret. Battlefield Army Mercenary Dao Qing from the Blade Wing race. I have accepted the escort mission and am here to hand it in to the Battlecruiser Fortress. Dao Qing directly negotiated with the other party as the leader. The Battlecruiser Fortress was the name of the battlefield fortress in front of them. However, they had not yet seen the battlefield fortress. After all, it was still 100 million kilometers away. The battlefield fortress did not emit light, so it was naturally impossible to see it with the naked eye. They could only rely on their spiritual sense to detect the existence of the Battlecruiser Fortress. Give me the mission number. The squad leader of the Emperor-level demon race Cultivator Patrol Squad said. Dao Qing told them the mission number. Then, the squad leader recorded it. Come with us. The mission has not been marked as completed yet. There are new changes. Go to the mission hall inside the fortress first. There will be specialized personnel to handle it for you. The mission had not been marked, and there were new changes. Chapter 12:14. When the Battlecruiser Fortress appeared in front of Long Yu couldn't help but be shocked. Although the Battlecruiser Fortress was only a battlefield fortress, it was several times larger than the entire Bloody Fall planet. It was actually the size of a large cultivation planet. Without a doubt, the construction of such a battlefield fortress would require an innumerable amount of resources. Although it could be constructed in the pocket dimension and then taken out from the pocket dimension. The key problem was that the buildings created in the pocket dimension would become unstable once they left the pocket dimension and went to the outside world. Therefore, a huge battlefield fortress like the Battlecruiser Fortress had to be built with precious materials from the outer cosmos. Only then could it withstand the continuous battles on the battlefield of the foreign races. If it was made of ordinary materials, this battle fortress would have been destroyed countless times. However, this battle fortress, named Battlecruiser Fortress, had existed for 72 years. It was considered relatively old among battle fortresses. Ordinary battle fortresses would gradually deteriorate after 50 years. After all, they had been through too many battles and suffered too much damage from the non-human kind. Many irreparable scars accumulated over time, and they would be completely scrapped after 50 years. Therefore, this Battlecruiser Fortress was the oldest battlefield fortress among the dozen or so battlefield fortresses under the jurisdiction of the Third Outer Cosmos. It had existed for 72 years and had repelled countless foreign invasions. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was the spiritual pillar of the cultivators in the Third Outer Cosmos. The Battlecruiser Fortress lives up to its name. Although I've been in the Third Outer Cosmos for half a year, this is the first time I've seen the legendary Battlecruiser Fortress. Not only Long Yu, but the other great sovereigns and demon cultivators were also filled with emotion when they saw the magnificent Battlecruiser Fortress. Although they were all great sovereigns, and there were definitely structures more magnificent than the Battlecruiser Fortress in their respective small worlds, the difficulty of building a colossal structure like the Battlecruiser Fortress in the Beyond Heaven world was trillions of times more difficult than building one in a small world. Because of this, there were only a little over 30 battlefield fortresses in the entire demon race's territory. If it was easy to build a battlefield fortress, the demon race's territory would have expanded by more than 10 times. Of course, it wasn't easy for any race to build a battlefield fortress. This wasn't something that could be casually built with some ordinary materials. Within the battlefield fortress, there were countless magic arrays. These magic arrays were not only the foundation of the battlefield fortress daily operations, but they were also the core of the battle against the foreign races. On the Battlecruiser Fortress, which was many times larger than planet Shualuo, there were tens of millions of formations with different functions. Some were for detection, some were for concealment, some were for attack, some were for defense, and some were for teleportation. If the non-human kind wanted to break into a battle fortress, they would have to pay 10 times the price of the number of people defending it. Only then would they be able to break into a battle fortress. Moreover, even if the battlefield fortress was taken down by the foreign races, there was no need to worry about the enemy seizing it and using it against them. This was because once the fortress was confirmed to be completely taken down, it would self-destruct at the last moment. Long Yu believed that if the battlecruiser fortress self-destructed, its power would be many times greater than the abyssal divine characters exploding from the abyssal tablet. If that happened, none of the foreign races that attacked the battlecruiser fortress would be able to escape. They would all turn into dust in the universe. Following Dao Qing and the others, Long Yu and Red Oriole also entered the interior of the battlecruiser fortress. They used a teleportation formation on the surface of the battlecruiser fortress to teleport to the largest mission hall in the battlecruiser fortress to check on the status of the mission. Inside the battlecruiser fortress, Long Yu looked around. He found that most of the people in the battlecruiser fortress reeked of blood and slaughter. Almost everyone in the battlecruiser fortress had killed countless foreign races. Of course, during this process, Long Yu believed that many more cultivators had died on the battlefield of the foreign races, and they couldn't see them. After arriving at the largest mission hall, Long Yu and the others found that there were quite a lot of people here. Most of them were monster cultivators, but there were also a few human cultivators. After all, the monster race and the human race had been allied for a long time. Even now, both sides were working hard to maintain this alliance. Therefore, there were all kinds of compensation and promotion measures for the strong of the other race to come to their territory. As the leader of the group, Dao Qing went to inquire about the status of the mission. Long Yu, Red Oriole, and the others waited in the back hall for news. Soon, Dao Qing walked over with a gloomy face. The situation doesn't look good. The army sent a total of 5 waves of bait. We were only one of them to attract the attention of the ice god race. Dao Qing glanced at everyone and said in a low voice, "Our 5 waves of bait have successfully attracted the attention of the ice god race. However, apart from our group, the other 4 groups have been completely wiped out." What? When everyone heard this news, their faces were instantly filled with shock. Although they felt lucky that they were still alive, they really did not think that the truth would be like this. It turned out that a total of 5 waves of bait had been sent out to attract the firepower, and only their side had survived. Moreover, their team of 13 people was still alive. This could almost be said to be unbelievable. Everyone couldn't help but look at Red Oriole and Long Yu. There was no doubt that they had been attacked by the Ice God clan twice on their way here. The first time, the 6 Ice God clan experts had been hiding in the surroundings. If Long Yu hadn't used some special method to lure them out, some of their team members would have been killed at that time, and there would have been casualties. Even more frightening was that if they hadn't killed the 6 Ice God race great sovereigns in advance and made them hide until they met up with the 40 Ice God race great sovereigns, it was likely that none of them would have made it to the battlecruiser fortress alive. From the fact that the other 4 bait groups had been completely wiped out, it could be seen that the overall strength of the Ice God race was very terrifying. If there were nearly 50 Ice God race great sovereigns on each side, then for this mission, the Ice God race had mobilized a total of more than 200 great sovereigns. This was already equivalent to the total number of great sovereigns in 3 or 4 galaxies. One had to know that these were great sovereigns, not ordinary sovereigns. Long Yu, Red Oriole, and the others had fought against the White Feather Monstrous Clan, the Black Scale Monstrous Clan, and the other 3 Monstrous Clans. Even if all 4 Monstrous Clans were combined, they wouldn't have as many as 200 great rulers. Each monstrous clan only had 30 to 40 great rulers on average. From this point of view, in order to stop the large number of fierce fire symbols from being sent to the front line, the Ice God race had actually sent more than 5 demonic beast races with all their high-end forces to venture deep into the territory of the demonic beast race. In the end, 4 of the 5 bait groups that the demonic beast race had sent to attract the firepower of the demonic beast race were completely wiped out. However, if the 4 groups fought so fiercely, the Ice God race's side must have suffered a lot. Of course, the Ice God race's losses had nothing to do with Long Yu. If that's the case, where are the fierce fire symbols? Haven't they been sent to the front line yet? Tian Tsang, the middle-aged man of the Heavenly Wings race, frowned and asked Dao Qing. They haven't arrived yet. This is related to another task. Let me explain in detail. Dao Qing shook her head and continued to explain to the others. Soon, after Dao Qing's explanation, the others finally understood what was going on. It turned out that apart from the 5 bait groups, the ones who were really transporting the fierce fire symbols were not the mercenaries of the battlefield army, but the Ascetic Alliance. The Ascetic Cultivator Alliance was a well-known organization in the territories of the Human Clan and the Demon Clan. It had a strong influence in both territories. It had branches in the major cultivation planets of the galaxies in the territories of the 2 races. This was not the first time that long you had heard of this name. The Ascetic Alliance. The Sufferers Alliance. Long you could not help but think of these 2 organizations with similar names. The Ascetic Alliance was called the Elixir Sect, and it seemed that it was not limited to the Human Clan and the Demon Clan. It was an organization that spanned the entire Beyond Heaven's world and had branches in many races. This was an extremely mysterious organization. Most of the practitioners of the Human Clan and the Demon Clan only knew that the elixirs produced by the Ascetic Alliance were second to none in the world, but they had never seen the members of the Ascetic Alliance. Once the elixirs refined by the members of the Ascetic Alliance were put on the market, they would definitely be sold at an incredible price. Long you had obtained an elixir left by a member of the Ascetic Alliance in the realm of 9 serenities, and he had not finished using it yet. Almost all the healing elixirs he had were obtained from the wreckage of the small world of the Ascetic Alliance. This was all thanks to the Geo Dragon Emperor. After all, it was the Geo Dragon Emperor who had captured a member of the Ascetic Alliance and forced him to refine elixirs for the Geo Dragon Emperor in the realm of 9 serenities. But the Ascetic Alliance was different. The Ascetic Alliance was mainly spread throughout the Demon Clan and the Human Clan. Long Yu had met one of their members before. It was the Heaven Prison Thunder Emperor whom he had met in the Divine Battle World. When he was in the Emperor realm of the King Path Secret Land, Long Yu had fought against the Heaven Prison Thunder Emperor. He found that the Heaven Prison Thunder Emperor was very familiar with the power of the 5 elements at the beginning, and his physical strength was extremely terrifying, much stronger than that of Long Yu at that time. Chapter 12:15. When Long Yu heard the name Ascetic Alliance from Dao Qing, he subconsciously thought of the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor and his father, Long Zaiqian, whom he had yet to find. He immediately felt his heart throbbing. Of course, he wasn't too excited about this because the Bitter Walkers Alliance was too big. Even if he met up with the members of the Bitter Walkers Alliance who were participating in this mission to escort the fierce fire talismans, the possibility of him meeting the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor was too low. Right now, the people of the Ascetic Alliance have just been stopped by over 200 Ice God Great Rulers. The situation is rather dangerous. The large legions of the Battlefield Legion are all held up by the Ice God race at the front line and can't return. Therefore, the Battlecruiser Fortress and another nearby fortress have already issued a reinforcement mission. Dao Qing continued. Our previous mission can be considered completed. If you don't want to continue, you can go directly to receive 100,000 Battlefield Army merit and the mission will be over. If you want to continue, go and reinforce the people of the Ascetic Alliance. When the fierce fire runes are delivered to the front line, the reward of 100,000 Battlefield Army merit will be doubled. Hearing Dao Qing's words, everyone was overjoyed. The choice given to them by the Battlefield Corps was really not bad. If they were afraid of danger, they could just claim the reward from the previous mission. But if they were willing to continue escorting the fierce flame talismans to the front line where the Battlecruiser Fortress was located, then their reward would be doubled. Doubling the reward was really a very tempting condition. 100,000 Battlefield Army merit could already be exchanged for a lot of cultivation resources. If it was doubled, many people's martial realm and cultivation might break through as a result. However, Long Yu was a little puzzled. Right now, he was only a 5-star emperor. When he accepted the mission, he had already said that if he completed the mission, he would only receive 5,000 battlefield army merit. Even if it was doubled, it would only be 10,000. It was really too little. Most importantly, although Long Yu's martial realm was relatively low, his demand for cultivation resources, especially creations, was not lower than others. How about it? Do you want to go? Long Yu turned his head and asked Red Oriole. Red Oriole chuckled. Wouldn't I be letting myself down if I don't go? This is a reward of 100,000 merit points. I don't want to give it up. Moreover, our follow-up mission this time is to reinforce the Ascetic Alliance, so the danger is much lower than before. It would be a waste not to go. Well said. I also intend to continue participating. Now, let's vote by a show of hands. If you want to continue participating, you can stay here. If you don't want to continue, you can go collect your reward. Let's part ways here. The burly man, Dao Qing, looked around and said solemnly to everyone, I'll join. Tian Tsang and Hai Shu were naturally on the same side as Dao Qing. Since Dao Qing was participating, the two of them had no reason not to participate. All three of them were from the Colossal Wing Galaxy, where the various races were known for their unity. Especially now that the rewards were better, they could not back down. I'll join too. The Firebird He Jimin nodded as well, quickly coming to a decision. As far as he was concerned, he had reached a bottleneck in the martial Dao. If he wanted to increase his cultivation base, the easiest way was to experience life and death battles and attempt to make a breakthrough. Therefore, the Firebird He Jimin did not participate in this mission for the 100,000 merit points. His main goal was to break through the bottleneck in his cultivation base and step into a higher martial Dao realm. There's still us. On the other side, the Purple Skywolf and the Black Flood Dragon, two Yao cultivators, also stood up, indicating that they would continue participating in the reinforcement mission. These two Yao cultivators were quite strong, at least much stronger than the other first-stage sovereigns. The Black Flood Dragon had mastered the power of the dual attribute Divine Text of Black Thunder. Its power was not much weaker than the power of the Revelation-level Divine Text. Moreover, he had completely mastered it, and when combined with his divine abilities and martial techniques, he could unleash extremely terrifying power. When Dao Qing's team was attacked by the second Ice God Sovereign, the Black Flood Dragon had contributed greatly to the team. As for the Purple Skywolf, he had mastered a first-grade Divine Array, Sky Fiend, which could summon countless purple lightning bolts to bombard the opponent. First-grade Divine Arrays were rumored to be the key to the demigod realm, so it was obvious how powerful they were. Although not every cultivator who had mastered a first-grade Divine Array could step into the demigod realm. If one wanted to step into the demigod realm, it was necessary to practice a first-grade Divine Array. This was because a Divine Array was actually the mastery of the Divine Text. After mastering a first-grade Divine Array, the cultivator could master the Divine Text of that element to the peak, and naturally, it would be easier for them to step into the demigod realm. Seeing that all the experts in the team had chosen to continue with the mission, the handsome young man of the Divine Wood Yao clan, Han Hen, also stood up. I'll also participate in the follow-up reinforcement mission. After all, we're reinforcing the Ascetic Alliance. We might not even have to do much, and we can easily get double the reward. Why not? The other first-stage sovereigns all nodded in agreement. None of the 13 people, including Long Yu and Red Oriole, chose to withdraw. All right, if that's the case, we'll set off as a small team. We've worked together before, so if we meet another opponent, it'll be easier for us to deal with them. When Dao Qing saw that no one had withdrawn, he immediately revealed a rough smile. He had been worried that if too many people withdrew, it would increase the difficulty of the reinforcement mission. However, it seemed that his worries were unnecessary. Of course, it was easier with more people. Although the Ascetic Alliance already had more than 200 sovereigns escorting this large batch of fierce fire talismans, the more reinforcements there were, the better the chances of success. This time, when we go to reinforce, It's very likely that we'll encounter the Ice God clan sovereigns from before, including the long-horned Ice God clan sovereigns and the pentagonal Ice Crystal sovereign. After they retreated, there's no way they would leave this area. They must have received news that they were sent to deal with the Ascetic Alliance. Red Oriole pondered for a moment and guessed. That's right. The 13 of us are relatively familiar with those two Ice God clan sovereigns. If we encounter them again, the chances of us killing them are not low. We'll have to rely on you guys, a first-stage sovereign said with a nod. A first-stage, he Jimin nodded, his gaze focused on Redbird, Dao Qing, and the Firebird he Jimin. This feeling of being ignored seemed to make Han Hen of the Divine, with demonic tribe, very uncomfortable. However, this handsome youth didn't say anything. After all, it was an indisputable fact that Red Oriole and the others were stronger than him. There was no point in him retorting, and he couldn't change the opinions of others. It should be known that even Han Hen himself was like this. He was now extremely respectful to Red Oriole and didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. However, he was still the same towards Long Yu. This was because he looked down on the weak. At the end of the day, it was the same reason why others looked down on him. However, this made Han Hen secretly decide that as long as he had the chance, he would definitely show off his strength and let these people see what he, Han Hen, was capable of. Most importantly, after the battle with the Ice God clan sovereigns, Han Hen's battle weapon seemed to have reached a higher level of compatibility, reaching the highest level, the unparalleled realm. That way, the battle weapon would develop its own consciousness, and its power would increase by at least tenfold. Unparalleled compatibility was the highest level of compatibility between a cultivator and a battle weapon. It allowed the cultivator to unleash all the power of the battle weapon, and some might even surpass it. If it was used in conjunction with an unbounded martial skill, the explosive power would be absolutely astonishing. Even for Long Yu, with the exception of the Netherworld Dragon Dagger, he hadn't reached the unparalleled realm with any other battle weapon. Furthermore, the Netherworld Dragon Dagger's grade was too low. If he didn't find a way to improve it, it would probably become less and less useful to Long Yu in the future. That was something that Long Yu had always kept in mind. Unfortunately, it wasn't that easy to improve the grade of a battle weapon. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many low-grade battle weapons in the world. According to what Red Oriole and Concubine Yu had said, there were two things that needed to be done to improve the quality of the Void Nether Dragon Blade. The first was to find a precious material known as the Primordial Origin, and the second was to have the help of a reliable weapon refinement master. Long Yu wasn't worried about the weapon refiner. With the wretched old man Wei Yuyin around, it shouldn't be difficult to improve the Netherworld Dragon Dagger's grade. The problem was that the precious material, the primordial essence, was simply too difficult to find. If one was lucky, the primordial essence could be found anywhere in the world. After all, it was the origin of the primordial 5 elements. Simply put, it was the power that existed before the primordial 5 elements were born. However, the primordial origin only existed for a short period of time. No matter where it was nurtured, it would quickly transform into the purest primordial 5 elements power. Because of this, it was extremely difficult to obtain the primordial origin. It was safe to say that almost all the cultivators in the world wanted to improve the grade of their most commonly used battle weapon. However, the amount of the primordial essence that they could obtain was very little. In the entire territory of the demon race, it could only be seen a few times in a year. It was more about luck than strength. That was the most difficult part. Even for a demigod, it wasn't easy to obtain the primordial essence. After they decided to continue with the reinforcement mission, they soon prepared to set off. Before they set off, they bought some fierce fire runes in the market of the battlecruiser fortress. The fierce fire runes weren't exclusive to a legion on the battlefield. As long as one knew how to refine them, any weapon refiner with a certain level could refine them and use them in battle. Chapter 12:16. Although the Fierce Flame Talisman was a consumable tool, its fundamental nature was similar to that of a battle weapon. It was a tool refined by a weapon refiner to be used in battle. However, the energy it could store was limited, so it was unable to continuously regenerate energy like a battle weapon could. Compared to the battle weapon, however, the advantage of consumable tools like the Blaze Talisman was very obvious. The cost of refining them was relatively low. The materials needed to refine an Archean battle weapon could definitely be used to refine at least 10 high-quality Blaze Talismans. The power of a Blaze Talisman in an instant was definitely not inferior to a cultivator who had reached the highest level of fusion with an Archean battle weapon. It was easy to imagine that such a thing could definitely turn the tide of a battle at a crucial moment. Unfortunately, the refining method of consumable tools like the Blaze Talisman could only be grasped by the human race and the demon race's battle armies. Therefore, they could only refine high-quality Blaze Talismans. As for the other civilian weapon refiners, although they could also refine Blaze Talismans, the quality of the Blaze Talismans they refined was much lower, and their power was not even 1/10 of the ones refined by the official battle armies. Of course, it was better than nothing. After all, the Blaze Talismans were not expensive. Therefore, Dao Qing paid for a total of 39 Blaze Talismans. Everyone in the team could get 3, which would at least double the team's combat strength when facing the Ice God clan. The 15 Blaze Talismans that Dao Qing had taken out from the storage ring of the escort mission had all been used up when the team repelled the second wave of Ice God clan's great sovereigns. Therefore, since they were going on a journey, they naturally had to prepare more things. In addition, the blue-haired woman, Hai Shu, even bought a fire shield wall talisman from the battlecruiser fort's trading area. The quality of the talisman was quite high, and it could hold off a third phase dominator from the Ice God race for a long period of time. Thus, the safety of the group was guaranteed to the greatest extent. After all the preparations were done, the team set off under Dao Qing's lead. They accepted the follow-up mission to reinforce the Bitterwalker Alliance. Through the teleportation formation in the battlecruiser fortress, they would soon be teleported to the area where the Bitterwalker Alliance was fighting. Be careful when you go over there. Although we're in the demon race's territory, since the other party dared to come here, they must have some hidden trump cards. Once there's danger, pay attention to your own safety. I don't want to see more casualties in this mission, Dao Qing said to everyone with a solemn expression. I just inquired about the situation in the battlecruiser fortress. It turns out that there are countless Ice God clan powerhouses attacking at the front line, not giving the 2 battle fortresses any time to catch their breath. Tian Song returned to the crowd and said in a low voice, although the 2 battlefield's fortresses here have joined forces, the Ice God clan has 3 battlefield's fortresses nearby, which have stalled the main forces of our 2 battlefield fortresses. There is no way for them to reinforce the ascetic alliance, so they can only rely on the mercenaries of the battlefields. No matter what, the Ice God clan is very ambitious now. We can't let them succeed in any step of their plan. Dao Qing nodded. After saying this, she activated the teleportation array and teleported everyone away. After a burst of white light, Long Yu opened his eyes and found himself, Red Oriole, Dao Qing, and the others once again appeared in a boundless, pitch-black void. However, this time, as soon as Long Yu arrived in this void, he could feel the murderous and bloody aura in this area. From a certain direction in the distance, there were waves of tyrannical energy constantly spreading, and Long Yu and the others could clearly feel it. The battlefield between the Ascetic Alliance and the Ice God clan, which has a total of more than 400 great sovereigns, should be right in front of us. Everyone, let's move together as much as possible in order to ensure our safety. Dao Qing instructed with a solemn expression. This was a matter of life and death, so the others naturally did not dare to say anything. They all nodded in agreement. In this chaotic battlefield where more than 400 great sovereigns were fighting, if they did not stick together, they would not even know how they died. Even Red Oriole, Dao Qing, and the others, who had reached the 3rd phase of great sovereigns, would only die if they entered the battlefield without a team. It should be known that more than 400 great sovereigns were equivalent to the peak strength of the White Feather Beastkin clan by 10 times. The Ice God clan rarely launched a battle and invasion of this scale. This time, the Ice God clan must be very determined, and they wanted to gain some advantage in the battlefield against the Beastkin clan. It was impossible to conquer the Beastkin clan's territory with this, but even a little advantage would be a great encouragement to the entire Ice God clan. Let's go. As soon as Dao Qing gave the order, everyone flew toward the battlefield. This mission could not only be accepted by the team that had accepted the mission to escort the Fierce Fire Talisman. If that was the case, no one else would come to help on the battlefield. As long as they were mercenaries, they were qualified to participate in this mission to reinforce the Ascetic Alliance. After all, this mission would determine the final outcome of the battle against the Ice God clan. Therefore, when Long Yu followed Dao Qing and the others to the battlefield, he saw many experts of the Beastkin clan appearing in the void all around them. They had also arrived at the battlefield through the teleportation array and were rushing toward the fierce battle of the Ascetic Alliance as fast as they could. These experts of the Beastkin clan were all existences in the Sovereign Secret Realm, and most of them were great sovereigns. Long Yu could see more than 30 great sovereigns rushing toward the battlefield with his naked eyes. Looks like there are quite a lot of mercenaries in the battlefield. The regular army is blocking the main forces of the Ice God clan at the front line, and the pressure is too great, so the mercenaries of the battlefield are protecting the rear. This is indeed a good idea, Long Yu thought to himself. Very quickly, the group arrived at the edge of the battlefield. From afar, they could see that the Ice Attribute Divine Runes had already enveloped the entire space in front of them. Frigid Qi continuously spread out in all directions. Shockingly, it was a completely activated Absolute Ice Sealing Array. Within this Absolute Ice Sealing Array, the figures of the Ice God clan's great sovereigns and the experts of the Ascetic Alliance could be vaguely seen, but because of the boundless frigid air, they could not see clearly. Even their spiritual senses were weakened to a certain extent, and some were even blocked. What should we do? If we rashly enter the Absolute Ice Sealing Array, I'm afraid the situation will be very bad. Dao Qing and the others did not expect to see such a situation. The Ice God clan's great sovereigns had actually constructed the Absolute Ice Sealing Array. Under such circumstances, it was at least 100 times more difficult for them to use their strength, because the Absolute Ice Sealing Array was an area of effect attack and control array. As long as they entered that area, all cultivators who did not belong to the Ice God clan would be corroded by the power of the Absolute Ice Sealing Array. The corrosion of the Absolute Ice Sealing Array was mainly to slow down the speed and control the freezing effect, and the terrifying frigid air could cause permanent damage to the cultivator's meridians. Other than secret martial arts like the Undying Purple Blood and Long Yu's Devil Dust Heart, there was no other way to completely ignore the corrosion of the frigid air in the Absolute Ice Sealing Array. In addition, within the Absolute Ice Sealing Array, no one knew the situation of the battle between the Ice God clan and the Ascetic Alliance. If the people of the Ascetic Alliance were at an absolute disadvantage, then others who entered the Absolute Ice Sealing Array would only be sending themselves to their deaths. I don't want to take the risk, the Firebird Hegemon said in a low voice. This was what the vast majority of the others were thinking as well. Aside from Long Yu's group of 13, the other mercenaries who had come to reinforce the battlefield had all arrived at the outskirts of the Absolute Ice Sealing Formation. They stared helplessly at the ice formation that covered an enormous area. Most importantly, when they were outside the Absolute Ice Sealing Formation, they couldn't sense any divine text power other than the Ice Divine Text. Although the Absolute Ice Sealing Formation had a shielding effect, it couldn't possibly shield the aura of other divine text powers, right? There were no other divine characters or auras inside. It was hard not to think that something unexpected had happened. It was even possible that the Ascetic Alliance's great sovereigns had all been wiped out. Why don't we join up with the others and break in together? Han Hen, The handsome young man of the divine with demonic clan suggested tentatively. Impossible. The Blackwater dragon demonic cultivator looked around. Although there were many mercenaries who had come to reinforce the ascetic alliance, they obviously had their own circles and factions. If they wanted to unite so many people, there would definitely be a big conflict. Not to mention, who would be the leader and give orders was a big problem. Therefore, the possibility of joining up with other mercenaries was not high. Even if someone wanted to, the effect would definitely not be good. Moreover, even if all the mercenaries on the outskirts of the absolute ice sealing formation joined forces, there would be no more than 50 great sovereigns. With such a small number of people, even if they rushed into the absolute ice sealing formation, there would only be the possibility of being annihilated if they encountered an ambush. Damn it, the battlefield fortress asked us to come as reinforcements. I didn't expect such a situation. With the absolute ice sealing formation, how would we dare to casually reinforce? Chapter 12:17. Dozens of reinforcements from the battlefield legion were isolated outside the absolute ice array. They did not dare to take another step into the array for fear of encountering fatal danger. Everyone was at their wits' end. There was nothing Long Yu and Red Oriole could do in this situation. Unless they possessed absolute strength, they would not be able to force their way through the absolute ice sealing array. Doing so would only result in death. This is troublesome. This reinforcement mission is so difficult. As expected, it's not easy to get double the battlefield merit points. For now, we can only wait and see, Dao Qing said to everyone in a low voice. Everyone nodded. In the face of this situation, no one was willing to take the risk, because they would lose their lives if they were not careful. Anyway, if the mission failed, the merit points would not be deducted. In the big picture, even if the fierce fire talismans were not delivered to the front line, it would not bring any disadvantage to the monster race camp. At most, they would not be able to expel the ice god race as soon as possible. The front line was still in a balance overall. Moreover, if they really could not resist the ice god race, the monster race would definitely send more battlefield fortresses in this direction to stop the majority of the ice god race army. Everyone waited outside the absolute ice array. After about an hour, the total number of reinforcements from the battlefield legion had reached 100 people, and it was still increasing. However, the absolute ice array did not show any signs of weakening. Moreover, within the range of the absolute ice array, everyone still did not feel the power of other attributes of the divine text, which cast a shadow over everyone's hearts. However, at this moment, there was a sudden change in one direction of the absolute ice array. A dazzling golden light suddenly appeared on the surface of the endless ice divine text, and it burst out from the inside of the absolute ice array. Although this golden light was very small, it was so bright that it immediately attracted the attention of all the reinforcements outside. It should be known that the place was originally full of ice divine text, and the sudden appearance of the golden light, even if it was only a small golden light, would definitely attract the attention of all the powerhouses present. After the appearance of the golden light, the entire absolute ice array seemed to have a loophole, and its overall aura was suddenly weakened by more than half. Although it was still frightening, it no longer felt as if they would die upon entering. Most importantly, there was a passageway at the place where the golden light burst out from. That passageway seemed to lead to the interior of the absolute ice sealing array. You could go in. Dao Qing immediately made a judgment. He narrowed his eyes and quickly pondered. The golden light burst out and caused damage to the absolute ice sealing formation, so that golden light was definitely not cast by the Ice God clan. Moreover, Dao Qing had never heard of the Ice God clan being able to comprehend the power of the Ice God clan other than the Ice God clan. In that case, the golden light must have come from the inside of the absolute ice sealing spell formation. It must have been cast by the powerhouses of the Bitter Walkers Alliance. They must have created a passage for the reinforcements from the outside to enter the absolute ice sealing spell formation. This was Dao Qing's first conclusion. Moreover, the golden light was very powerful. After breaking a big hole in the absolute ice seal array, the entire absolute ice seal array's aura did not recover. It seemed to be completely suppressed by the power of the golden light. Since that was the case, it was very likely that it would be very safe to enter through the path opened by the golden light. However, among so many people present, there were not many who could make such a judgment. Most people were still looking at the scene in shock, trying to guess what the golden light was. At this time, Dao Qing had already led everyone in flying in the direction of the golden light. At the same time, 2 other reinforcement teams flew in the direction of the golden light. The 2 reinforcement teams had a total of more than 20 people. Their scale was similar to that of Long Yu's team. However, there were fewer great sovereigns. Each reinforcement team only had 6 or 7 great sovereigns. The rest were all high sovereigns. After all, when Long Yu's team accepted the battlefield army mission, it was clearly stated that only great sovereigns could accept it. Very few other teams had such a strong configuration like Long Yu's team. However, it was worth noting that the 2 reinforcement team leaders were very strong. Just their aura alone was definitely not weaker than Red Oriole and Dao Qing. Of course, there was no point in thinking about this now. Everyone had a common enemy, and that was the 200 Ice God Clan Great Sovereigns who had invaded the Goblins' territory and wanted to steal the fierce fire talismans. The 3 small teams were the first to react. They immediately charged towards the icy passageway created by the burst of golden light. Long Yu, Red Oriole, Tian Tsang, Hai Shu, and the others naturally obeyed Dao Qing's orders. Moreover, they had determined that this icy path was definitely passable. Right now, if they wanted to reinforce the Bitterwalker Alliance, they could only go through this path. Dao Qing was the first to lead the team. However, they were not the first to enter the icy path. This was because when they were about to enter, Dao Qing asked everyone to slow down a little. In this situation, it's best not to rush to the front. Otherwise, it will be very easy for accidents to occur. This was the consensus in everyone's hearts. Therefore, they slowed down and let the other team enter first. Then, they followed behind the other team and stepped into the icy path. The reason why it was called an icy path was because it had been created in the absolute ice formation. The surroundings were surrounded by ice divine characters that were close to solid. However, at this moment, the icy path was filled with golden light. The golden light that had shot out from the absolute ice formation had created such a path. The power of the golden light had not dissipated. Instead, it lingered on the walls of the path, preventing the absolute ice formation's power from regenerating and merging. However, it seems that this path won't last for much longer. Although this golden light is very powerful, the absolute ice formation was created by many Ice God Clan Great Sovereigns. It's easier said than done to suppress it. Tian Tsang, the middle-aged man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, shook his head and sighed. Along with his words, everyone noticed that the golden light around the passageway was gradually fading, and it was once again enveloped by the ice divine markings. Although it could still be maintained for now, it would likely collapse in another 30 minutes. Now that they had entered the path, they immediately felt the pressure from the absolute ice formation. The space divine characters were completely blocked and could not be used. Behind them, there were other teams that had entered the path. It was impossible for them to retreat. We can only move forward. Once we encounter danger, immediately use the fierce fire talisman. Remember, Dao Qing reminded everyone. Then, she walked at the forefront, following the team in front. They continued to walk along the path, toward the absolute ice formation. At this moment, the absolute ice formation had been formed. It had become a large area of ice. The cold air was extremely oppressive. In such a place, they could encounter sneak attacks from the Ice God Clan Great Sovereigns at any time. Although it was very difficult for the Demon Clan to move forward in the Absolute Ice Formation, for the Ice God Clan, the Absolute Ice Formation was like their nest. They could move freely in it, just like fish in water. Therefore, as soon as they stepped into the path, everyone was completely alert. They were ready to fight at any time. As they walked deeper into the absolute ice sealing spell matrix, they became more and more confused, because they didn't see any Ice God clan or cultivators from the Ascetic Alliance. The absolute ice formation was here. Where on earth had the others gone? I remember that there were still divine runes surging here at the beginning, but when we arrived, there was only this absolute ice sealing array left. Did something happen? Long you guessed. But considering that the golden light that had just appeared had broken the absolute ice formation, he knew that there must be people from the Ascetic Alliance in this formation. No matter what, as long as they followed this path to the end, they should know what was going on. Everyone continued to move forward. After the time it takes for 2 incense sticks to burn, the last passageway finally began to collapse. A total of 6 or 7 teams took advantage of this time to enter the absolute ice sealing array. There were more than 50 people in total, which was about half of the reinforcements. As for the remaining half, they had completely lost the opportunity to enter the absolute ice formation. If they completed the task, they would not be rewarded. Of course, from their point of view, this was not a bad choice. After all, entering the unknown absolute ice seal array was a little too dangerous. Even with the guidance of the golden light, the probability of dying inside was still very high. The teams that had no confidence in their own strength, of course, hesitated and did not dare to enter until the path collapsed and they lost their last chance. And at this time, the team that stepped into this ice path had finally reached the end of the path. What appeared in front of them was a mysterious scene. Long Yu, Dao Qing, and the others followed closely behind. When they reached the end, they all widened their eyes and looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. What's going on? Why did a space-time tunnel appear here? All the cultivators who knew about the space-time tunnel were shocked. As for Long Yu, he saw that at the end of the passageway, there was actually a 5-colored vortex of energy. The vortex was constantly rotating and contained the boundless power of the divine runes of space. It was as though anyone who stepped into it would be sucked into the primal chaos void. Space-time tunnel. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.